You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look me better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Naruto Meets Danny Phantom. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Cray22 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Danny and Yagura. Danny looked at the sphere of water that had grown even larger and looked to be as large as Casper High School was now. What was Yagura going to try and do, drown him in it? He couldn't see what had happened to the Mizukage, and if he were trying to ambush him he would sense it. But as far as he could tell, Yagura was still in front of him. The sphere of water burst like a bomb, sending Danny backwards. In front of him was a sight he never would soon forget. Standing right in front of him was the three-tailed bijou itself. The sandbai gave off a bit of a roar and swing of its tail, sending a tidal wave of water towards Danny. Danny formed a few hand seals for a water jutsu that was used in combat situations. Water style, water geyser. He yelled as a jet of water propelled him up above and over the tidal wave. His eyes glowed neon green as he looked towards his opponent's new state. So you've become the sandbai itself in order to win this. I can't believe how dumb the Mizukage really is for something like this. Well, if that's how you want to play this game, Yagura, you should know two things as well. 1. Limiter release, Kai. Danny's chakra shot through the roof. His second and third chakra caps were already released. Now he has just released the rest of them. The second is a question, Yagura. Did you honestly believe you were the only person here who could change their form? He finished as he allowed the glowing white halo rings to pass over his body, giving him the familiar ethereal glow. Only this one was a good deal brighter. The white striped black hair soon became completely snow white and both eyes became neon green. What changed from his original outfit was that instead of the black and white spandex he used to wear, Danny now wore white fingerless gloves coupled with a white vest and two diagonally straps that went across his chest. White combat boots completed his new makeover. All of this went over a black suit similar to what Anbu wore but without the headpiece. The Konoha leaf on the belt that went over his pants, while his old emblem was on the right section of his new vest. It's true that the chakra caps released all of his excess chakra out, and that now in his ghost form, all of his abilities have now been released as well, not to mention that he had access to all of them. Are you ready to end this, Yagura? Because I most certainly am. The Mizukage/Sanbai roared in acknowledgement as he used his tails to cause a massive tidal wave against the Halfa. Hayaton style, morphing glacier beasts. Danny called out as he allowed the water from the tidal wave to take the form of what looked like beluga whales with long, helical, ice spikes coming straight from their snouts. Points to those who know what this is. The great beasts leapt towards the sandbai, who looked at them like they were a nuisance. It swung its tails and shattered them into shards. Danny took flight, relishing the familiar feel of flying in the sky. Yagura himself was not amused. Inside he formed a jutsu used for capturing. Water style, water prison jutsu. This water prison encompassed a total of 25 yards in diameter. Danny didn't need to breathe thanks to what he was. So he was going to give the Mizukage a little gift. The Mizukage believed that he couldn't get out of this as it was as strong as steel even if it was made out of water. Hayaton style, cold wave. The entire sphere suddenly froze over as the sphere itself became one giant ball of ice. Danny himself was frozen inside, but he phased out through the bottom of the ball and lifted the thing into the air. Throwing the ball of ice along with a huge sphere of ecto-energy from a high altitude and at such close range was enough to make Yagura, even in the form of the sandbai, feel like he was hit with a boulder and clods of clay. Water style, massive water bullets. Yagura yelled in his mind as the bullets from the Sanbai's mouth were launched at the Halfa. Danny shook his head, letting his eyes shine blue and allowing his cryo energy to flow. Hayaton style, cold wave. This time the wave of cold energy was expelled at a large radius, allowing Danny to freeze all of the water bullets in midair. Taking control of the bullets while they were frozen, he used his mind to take control of the ice bullets and sent them falling towards Yagura from above. Yagura just couldn't understand it. This child was turning the majority of his attacks against him or is able to evade them spectacularly. Danny flew down, fists charged with ectoplasmic energy pounding the Sanbai's face in retaliation, which Yagura countered by hitting Danny with one of his tails at full force. The pain was excruciating as he could feel every single one of his bones on fire. Yet he kept on fighting. The Sanbai began charging a bijou dama, which confused Danny to what he would do with that. Yagura released the bomb, sending it straight into the air and towards a section of the forest. The result was chaos. It almost looked like an atomic bomb just went off. Which frightened Danny. The amount of power used for that was dangerous. He couldn't let that thing hit him. Yagura had an evil idea. He began charging up another bijou dama. At the last few seconds he changed its course. Towards the bridge. Alarmed, Danny flew into the path of the attack and formed a shield of his own. He wasn't sure if this would hold, but he knew for sure that he couldn't let that thing towards his team. Gathering as much energy as he could, he struggled with his strength against that of the Mizuki's. The groups of ninja on the bridge noticed the bomb coming but also saw what looked to be a green disc holding it back while it slowly crept forward. Naruto yelled "Nisan," which reached Danny's ears as he let out a yell of his own by taking a different grasp on the attack and redirected it into the sky. The green disc died down, but the group could see a white ethereal glow in the distance. Yagura smirked at this. Now he could get rid of everything at once. Guess this country will be destroyed by what it is called then. Water style, demonic tsunami. Kakashi and Zabuza both noticed how the water beneath the bridge was starting to recede towards the Sanbai. Kakashi looked like he was about to have a slide at what the Mizuki was planning. Danny saw what looked like giant wave coming towards him and those on the bridge. Temper rising, Danny glared, eyes burning bright neon green at the Sanbai as he charged up another of those chakra spheres. The wave passed over the Sanbai right as he was finishing charging it up. No. I have already lost those I considered family and friends once already. I do not intend to lose them in a fight. He spoke as he channeled chakra and ecto energy into his throat. Ever. Again. Sonic sound waves clashed against the raging wave as the chakra sphere from the Sanbai collided with it as well. Yagura used up most of the chakra he and the Sanbai had in those last 3 attacks, and he did not believe that he could do something that could even counterbalance the strength behind that assault. He was proven wrong as he was assaulted in return by sound waves higher and louder than anything he had ever heard. The chakra sphere was slowly being pushed back while at the same time, beginning to destabilize. Even those on the bridge covered their ears as they heard what sounded like cries of the dead being sung. The end result was the sphere being pushed back towards the Sanbai without having any time to dodge. The sphere exploded with the force of 100 tons of dynamite while the sound waves kept coming. Each of them were like hammers on his eardrums as he writhed in pain. The sound waves were also amplified by the water itself in terms of speed, so as one could guess he felt like he was being hit by a stampede of animals. What nobody had anticipated was inside his mind, a Sharingan-based genjutsu was beginning to crack until it fully broke, with the end result being too much for Yagura. Danny ended the attack when he saw the wave recede and his opponent, the Mizuki, was unconscious in the water. He knew he used up a lot of his ecto energy, but he needed to end this battle on the bridge fast. Taking his opponent and binding him, he hovered back to the bridge, the pain beginning to take its toll. He couldn't risk turning back now, but right now his own body was fighting against him with a longing to rest. Without a command, the rings against his will appeared and passed over him. making all of his pain come back like wildfire on his whole body. Yet he pressed on trying to make it back to the bridge. Conclusion. Team 7 along with Haku and Zabuza were standing completely exhausted. Naruto still had chakra but was finding it strong to move even his own muscles with the wounds he received. After Danny's clone had been dispelled, he worried if his brother had been killed, but he kept fighting to protect their client and his team. His chakra was running low and he kept having to spread himself more and more between his team and his protection of the client. At this point he just wanted to break down and cry. Sasuke was shaking like a leaf. Sharingan still active, alert but not sure if he could handle another attack. Haku's mask had long since shattered in the scuffle between their fight with the Hunter Nin. His left arm was dangling uselessly from a lucky cut that a Hunter Nin managed to inflict on him, rendering the arm useless for the time being. Kakashi had to cover his Sharingan to conserve chakra and was down to only 2 kunai. One of which he loaned to Zabuza since the swordsman was starting to buckle from the weight of the sword and the strain of the fight. He couldn't continue holding it during the battle, so he cast it off to conserve what strength he had. Standing in front of everybody was a group of 7 Hunter Nin, ready to finally end this fight. The Nin were about to charge in when a distorted voice cried out from the fog. "Stop this now!" This got everyone's attention. Looking towards the voice, everyone saw someone coming through the clearing mist with a bundle on their back. The strangest part was that the bundle was glowing. The clearing mist revealed to the relief of Team 7 to be their comrade who they originally believed dead. Naruto just wanted to drop his knife and hug his brother, if he had the strength for it, that is. Sasuke had a gentle smile coming over his face. "All shinobi, stand down. This battle is over," he replied as the Halfa deposited a wrapped up and unconscious Yagura. When the Hunter Nin saw this, 2 of them backed up in fear out of what just happened to their leader. "Hear me loud and clear. Take your leader and the ninja you can still rescue and go back to Kirigakure. Do not return to Wave under any circumstances unless specified by a daimyo of Wave or Fire Country. Got it?" They nodded as they checked for bodies who were still alive. Most were dead while some just trudged behind. One of the Hunter Nin collected Yagura and then hightailed it out of there. Once Danny saw the Nin disappear, he turned to face his team and the bridge builder, smiling. "It's over. Time skip, after battle." Everyone was panting as they looked at the fallen Hunter Nin, all the shadow and water clones having been long since destroyed. Even Naruto was relying on fumes and was very close to breaking the seal that housed the 9-tailed fox. The blonde shook his head, not even wanting to think of using the power of the Kyuubi in battle out of respect for the fox, and also due to Danny saying he would beat the blonde senseless if he harmed the 9-tailed beast. In his brother's own words, the Kyuubi no Kitsune is a living being, Naruto, and though it was imprisoned for attacking Konohagakure, it deserves respect. If I found out you have no respect for him, then I can guarantee you that when I'm done with you, the nightmares you will have would just be pleasantly fuzzy dreams compared to what I would do." Naruto involuntarily shivered as he remembered the fury coming from Danny's glowing green eyes. Kakashi was also tired and most likely overused his Sharingan alongside Sasuke, even if he had recently unlocked his own. Haku and Zabuza decided to take a break from the fighting so that they could catch their breath. Tazuna was panting as well after witnessing such a huge fight and being so close to death before turning his head and seeing the skunk-haired boy limping over to them. Slowly Danny started to feel his ecto-energy deplete as it attempted to heal his broken ribs, and repair the damaged organs as he spoke. "I guess, it is safe to say, that I was able to fight off a Kage, on my own." As if on instinct, the skunk-haired teen, Sasuke, and Naruto fell to the ground as the village from the land of waves appeared behind them. Kakashi could only shake his head at how stupid his student was to face a Jinchuriki as well as the Mizukichi. This kid will go places that no ninja has gone before, though if he did beat a Jinchuriki, I have to ask, who would be more powerful, Danny, or Naruto? Haku went over to see Team 7 despite Zabuza's protest. Haku, you know we can't stay here. The Hyeten wielder ignored the swordsman's command, then got to work on Team 7's injuries. Why are you helping us? Sasuke was a little curious despite still trying to keep his Sharingan active. Haku glanced at him. Deactivate your Sharingan please, Uchiha-san. Your teammate just saved our lives by stopping the Mizukage. This is the least I can do. Besides, even if your blonde teammate and I can relate a little bit and I found a rival with you as well, it would at least ease my conscience a little bit. Besides, this way at least we might be even, for now anyway. Sasuke understood and deactivated his Sharingan. Haku sighed in exasperation. I may not have enough bandages for everyone, so I will have to make do with what I can get. Haku gave a diagnosis based on what he could examine on the team. Kakashi had several bruises and a concussion. It would do good for him to take some time to rest. He also advised the Jonin not to use his Sharingan for a few days. Naruto was suffering from chakra depletion and had multiple lacerations on his body which would take some time to heal even with the Kyuubi assisting him. Sasuke took a little bit longer, but Haku informed him that while he had stretched his muscles a little too much, it was his Sharingan that gave him the most worry. Apparently he would need to have a bandage over his eyes for 2 whole days so as to allow his eyes to rest from using the Sharingan so much. Then not to activate his Sharingan for another few days. He formed a little bit of ice on his leg and arm and told him to keep it there for the next few hours. Danny was the worst off. He had so many cuts, bruises, and damaged bones it was lucky he hadn't already been killed. Naruto informed him about his brother's self-healing ability which Haku took into account. Considering the chakra exhaustion that the kid just went through as well as the fight against the Mizukage himself, Haku advised the team that he was going to need several days of bed rest and at least a week off from any sort of heavy physical activity. It would have been shorter, but considering his condition in the body of a preteen and not an adult, it will take a little while longer for him to recover. Time skip, finished bridge. After everyone recovered or at least partially recovered, the bridge was finished. Team 7 was once again on the move, heading back to their home. The group had learned the villagers got the courage and finally chased Gado's men out, with Gado himself being placed in a prison of his own wearing only rags. They managed to get the money he stole back from him. Now the only thing they needed was to name the bridge. Naruto and the rest of Team 7 asked for the bridge to be named after Kaiza, and so the rest of them had all agreed to honor Kaiza's memory. Naruto couldn't help but smile as they walked. Sasuke was his indifferent self, Danny had a blank face on as he was carried by his teammates, and Kakashi kept on thinking back to what the skunk-haired boy had said. Every time the Jonin went over what the boy had said to the blonde, he kept coming to the same conclusion that the skunk-haired boy knew about the Kyuubi and didn't care about it. Looking over at the skunk-haired boy though showed him to be in a half-conscious state and seemingly walking in his sleep while following him. Thinking back on it, the Jonin didn't think it was possible to actually do something like this, but here he was again, with his assumption broken, before suddenly running into something. Oh Naruto, what's suddenly gotten into you? Kakashi spoke as the group stopped and looked at the blonde whose face grew into a big smile as if he remembered something. I got it. Danny is effectively asleep right now, so, why don't we try to take advantage of him and get some answers from him? Sasuke looked at the blonde for a moment before turning his attention the skunk-haired teen and speaking. You're right, if Danny is still asleep we should, but moving around then he is in no position to resist our attempts to pressure him for any information about his known abilities. Kakashi was quiet as he realized this was indeed a good idea, and with an eye smile directed towards the sleepwalking boy spoke. That is a good idea Naruto. Now then, Daniel, please tell us your most powerful ability and show us your alternate form. Everyone looked at Danny expectantly as the Halfa tilted his head to the side and spoke in monotone. Attempting to ask question while mind is half asleep, abilities will not be mentioned, won't change forms, remind Hafike of video blackmail. Kakashi face planted into the ground as Naruto's and Sasuke's eyes opened in realization of what happened during their test from their sensei on the first day together and the video their teammates spoke of. The skunk-haired teen looked over at the other two for a moment before speaking in monotone again. Remind Naruto of plushie and certain food, remind Sasuke of incident with Sakura, have blackmail on all of three in attempt of backstabbing, no known blackmail collected on self yet. Slowly the Halfa fell asleep again as Kakashi raised an eyebrow at the startled faces that Sasuke and Naruto had adopted. The last of the Uchiha clan shuddered as he vividly remembered the incident involving Sakura, which resulted in her being held back a year and greatly boosted his respect for Danny. As for Naruto, he remembered the incident involving Noodles and the thing about his stuffed animal. Do I even want to know what sort of blackmail he has on the two of you? The silver-haired Jonin raised an eyebrow as the two boys viciously shook their heads in denial before taking off after their comrade. At least, that was until they ran into the backup that they had sent for, lazily walking in their direction. Upon seeing them, Kakashi had his one visible eye twitch in annoyance before getting several evil thoughts appearing in his mind. Dash straight face, a few hours later dash straight face. Team 7 finally arrived back at the village minus the backup team that would not be reappearing for a while after the beating that Kakashi gave them. They would be lucky to have children with how strong he was with them. Man, where was that team when we could have needed them? Naruto spoke while he looked at the ground frowning, whether it was out of anger or depression was unknown. Even Sasuke was annoyed that the backup team didn't arrive in time to help them, and nearly resulted in the death of everyone on the team. The Jonin could only think of two reasons, and one of those reasons sickened him to think the village had fallen so low. Danny though continued to walk in his half-conscious state, which apparently had a no-nonsense attitude. This in turn allowed the team to see a feat that defied the physics of chakra in the thing of a glowing green orb, and green sticky goo. I'll talk with the Hokage later about this, right now everyone needs some rest, including Daniel if what he did was any indication. Kakashi squeezed this to ease tension. He gestured to the Jonin, who took it with a bewildered expression and felt that the texture take some stress and the migraine pain away. Soon the team was reporting to the Hokage himself about their mission. Hiruzen was indeed surprised as ever when he learned that the group faced off against Momochi Zabuza of all people. He was a little bit frightened when he was informed that Gato informed the 4th Mizukage of Zabuza's location and actions. This caused him to become concerned due to Mist being a great village and risking a war no matter how far they were from Kirigakure or their reasons. Wave country was indeed bordering fire country and water country, but to risk the village itself against Yagura did not bode well. What did surprise him was that not only did Daniel fight against Yagura himself and won, but Kakashi and his teammates both backed it up as they saw Danny place Yagura down wrapped up in some substance. The rest of the Kirigakure hunter Nin left the area with Yagura in tow. This report was sure going to be a headache to write up and even harder to believe a genin of all people faced off against a Kage and won. This sort of thing did not happen every day. He did find out in regarding Daniel's condition when Kakashi informed him that Zabuza's accomplice, who was the fake hunter Nin and also doubled as a medic. Haku, who owed it to them for stopping Yagura and getting them off their back that time, at least owed him some medical attention. Haku advised him and his team of Daniel experiencing a severe case of chakra exhaustion and extreme fatigue. That he needed bed rest for a few days and that he would need at least a week before he ever saw combat again, even with his healing factor. Of course the good news was ruined when Kakashi informed the Hokage of the backup he sent. Hiruzen was indeed upset and would find a further punishment for the 2 Chunin and 1 Jonin he had sent, as the punishment Kakashi administered was not good enough in his opinion. Danny asked in a half-wake state if it was possible to make the 3 choose to either do D-rank missions for an entire year and a half or demote all 3 straight to genin. Hiruzen and Kakashi both had widened eyes as both never really considered this. Though the second option was starting to sound more tempting and a major blow to their pride. All of this would have been fine if the skunk-haired boy had kept his mouth shut afterwards. Question: why are you still doing paperwork? There is an obvious solution to cut down the amount. Everything went quiet and the air grew thick with tension as the Hokage's left eye twitched slightly. All those in the area took a step away as the two looked each other in the eyes as if daring one of them to act. Though with Danny in his half-sleep-like state he was unable to realize in time what would happen if he were to blink now. Upon blinking the Hokage lunged at the boy and held him up in the air while letting out an immense amount of killing intent while speaking. "Tell me the secret to defeating paperwork, now." Barely processing what he strong in the hazy state he was in, the skunk-haired teen spoke while shaking his head clear of fog. "Shadow clones, what happened, and when did I suddenly get into the Hokage tower?" The rest of Team 7 had blank looks on their faces at this moment upon hearing their team member speak while Kakashi spoke. "We just got back here while you were in your bout of sleepwalking and somehow mentioned knowing the secret of defeating paperwork, Daniel, but it's nice to see that you joined the realm of the living again. Also, you don't need to worry on reporting since your sleep-induced self did just that before being tackled by the Hokage." The silver-haired Jonin gave an eye smile at this while the skunk-haired boy managed to pick himself up off the floor while the Hokage had temporarily left the room. At least that was until Danny fell back onto the floor clutching his ears as a loud scream came from the halls making everyone else wince. Danny just wanted to go to sleep. When the Hokage returned though he gave a nod signaling that Team 7 could leave before making 3 shadow clones that got to work on attacking the papers. Naruto simply shook his head before walking over to his brother and picking him up to carry them to the apartment. That they both shared as Kakashi spoke. "Oh, and Naruto, when your brother wakes up please tell him to meet us at the training ground when he can at his earliest convenience. As far as I can tell, he needs it." The entire team left after this as they shook their heads and frowned until one looked down at a piece of paper and spoke. "Well, at least my brother might be ready just in time for this." Hiruzen on the other hand was rubbing his head as he looked at the report given by Team 7. Shadow clones or not. This is going to be troubling once the civilian council finds out, especially the elders. On the bright side, I no longer have to worry about all this blasted paperwork. Sasuke and Naruto stood on the bridge while observing Danny as he learned to balance on his kunai knife, which was facing tip down on the railing of the bridge and out over water. Danny was balancing on another one so as to attempt an advanced chakra exercise. This of course had the added benefit of providing a distraction to them since their sensei Kakashi was late once again. This was the only entertainment they managed to get at the moment as the skunk-haired boy easily changed hands that kept him up in the air. No matter what they tried though, their friend had somehow managed to stay perfectly balanced even as Guy and his apprentice Lee went by them and causing the bridge to shake as they did so. "Someone, please tell me that we have not been watching this for the past hour and a half and that Danny hasn't managed to just do that," Sasuke spoke after he watched as the Halfa easily took another kunai knife out and stick it on the top of the other one and was now balancing on 2 of them. The last of the Uchiha clan was at this very moment having his mind very close to breaking for the sheer impossibility of what he was seeing. As for Naruto, he stayed quiet, mesmerized by the sight in front of him even as their sensei came up and froze in place upon seeing this. Maybe I was wrong and Danny is actually slightly insane. As for Danny, he easily managed to write himself off of his kunai towers. "Nice to see you're on time once again, Kakashi-sensei. Would you mind telling us what our mission is for today, or do we have the day off?" he asked in a dry tone. Snapping out of his shock, the silver-haired Jonin managed an eye smile. "Now that you mention it, I have a few D-rank missions that we need to take care of, which would be a good thing after dealing with our C-rank turned A-rank mission. While I inform the Hokage on what I have learned as well." Team 7 went through the D-rank missions with Sasuke and Naruto in a silent challenge to outperform the other in doing the best job. Truth be told, it was sort of embarrassing to see them like this. "Dobe, you won't get a mission done like that. You're one to talk. I'll finish this before you will, Databayo." Kakashi's clone continued to read his orange book in an attempt to hide the sweat drop, every once in a while looking up to make sure his team was doing alright. Kakashi slapped Sasuke's head when he was about to attempt a fire jutsu to get rid of the weeds. Sometimes I question myself on Sasuke's common sense. Apparently the only person actually doing the decent work was Danny, and he chose not to partake in the competition, but if he was going to win it as he was showing more patience than the other two. The only mission Danny couldn't do was walking the Inuzuka dogs. They always seemed to pin him to the ground and lick him continuously for some reason or other, big or small. Scene shift. Kakashi arrived at the office seeing the Hokage reading a small orange book while some shadow clones went through the stacks of paper on his desk. The instant that the silver-haired Jonin came in though he quickly tried to hide said book and act as if nothing happened. Kakashi, what is it this time? Is it something to do with your team? The old man let out a sigh for a moment as Kakashi only smiled at him before speaking. Straight to the point, I came to discuss what I came across regarding Daniel's Kekei Genkai. To tell you the truth, his bloodline is like Naruto's actions, completely unpredictable even to the point of defying any laws regarding chakra. The most prominent physical aspect is that it changes his BLD so it's red with a green tint to it. Also when it leaves contact with his body its chemical composition allows the BLD itself to become steam, yet I am having trouble figuring that out on how it is possible. Even Tsunade wouldn't let him leave till she could figure it out. Hiruzen stayed quiet for a moment before motioning for the silver-haired man to continue. Also it has come to my attention that Daniel-san seems to be indicating that chakra is a secondary source of energy for him. This shouldn't be possible. As far as I know though everyone and everything is born with chakra in them even Ninkin and other animals, but he made it sound like it was a secondary energy. Things were quiet for a moment as the Hokage listened to the Jonin before speaking himself. So you have noticed it as well. While it is true that people are born with chakra this seems not to be the case. From what I can gather the proximity of ecto-energy and its relations to chakra might have had an adverse effect on the people from Daniel-san's homeland. Hiruzen went quiet for a moment as he took a puff from his pipe before speaking again. For all we know the people of Daniel-san's homeland may not have any chakra in them. While I would say this is impossible, some of the things that he can do as you say already defy the physical laws of chakra. For all we know this, ectoplasmic energy may be the first power he unlocked and chakra truly is a secondary ability to him. Kakashi let his mind wander hearing this as he slowly realized why his student wasn't willing to change forms. So, from his actions he wants to learn how to use chakra more in case he is in any situation that prevents the use of half of his abilities? Smart. Reminds me of a certain Uchiha somewhat. I will still keep an eye on him just in case. The two went quiet before both proceeding to leave for the Jonin meeting. Scene shift. The missions were completed around early afternoon. With them done, Kakashi allowed his students to go and do whatever they had wanted. Naruto and Sasuke went to go and train for a little bit and to play it safe. Danny was using the roofs of the village to see if he could pick up a few things for any future missions as they could help later on. He left saying he would meet up with them in a later on. This provided him with more than one security which were, he could avoid his apparent fan club, which though was smaller than Sasuke's were still annoying, and if Tora got loose he didn't have to worry about the cat coming after him. Not that it mattered as the labeled demon cat somehow had some sort of HPS or alpha positioning sense, and always went after him for one reason or another. As if to prove this a sudden crashing sound was heard and in mid-jump the skunk-haired alpha was attacked by said cat. Ah, get it off, get it off. Danny struggled with the demon cat as it latched itself upon his face and started try and claw it off for some reason as he missed his target and started to fall to the ground. Normally, Danny could survive falls in excess of 500 feet due to his unique nature, so hitting the ground back first at a few stories only knocked the wind out of him temporarily. But this time he was also dealing with a cat hellbent on taking his face off for some reason so he would be in a lot more pain than normal as it were. Sometimes he contemplated if maybe he should ask the fire daimyo's wife to invest in some paw gloves that people find in pet stores, or he could freeze the blasted cat's paws solid and encased in ice. The only bright side of the entire thing for everyone, except Danny, was that there was no need to find Tora again if the cat ever managed to get out. As if on cue, the squad responsible for finding Tora in case this happened appeared, and not long after he fell to the ground later and managed to catch him before tearing the cat off of his face. Seems that one of the members saw Tora latch onto him from the ground. Now the Halfa was not in the right state of mind and took off as the cat continued to try and reach him as the squad leader spoke. Seriously, ever since that kid arrived in the village and retrieved Tora, the cat has been trying to kill him day in and day out. Maybe we should work on our response time though, and at least try to work on getting to him before that blasted cat does. The other members nodded slowly while sincerely wishing the stripped hair boy to recover quickly after this sudden and devastating attack. That night Danny fell asleep and was temporarily plagued by nightmares of Tora attacking him before suddenly being drawn away. Now he was stuck standing in front of 3 cages, inside of which were the 9 tails, the 2 tails, and the 1 tail. So I get to meet Matatabi the 2 tails and Shikaku the 1 tail, and apparently you're here as well, Kuruma. What am I, a tail beast magnet or something? Slowly the 3 beasts came out from the shadows of their respective cages, with only the demon fox looked amused to see him. As for the demon raccoon and the demon cat, they just regarded the newcomer with hatred in their eyes for interrupting a little family reunion. Kurama put a stop to that thankfully. The 2 of you might want to tone it down, we're not dealing with any mere mortal here but a Halfa, and not just any Halfa but the one that has defeated Pariah Dark and destroyed the reality gauntlet itself. For a moment there, Danny thought Kurama was going to shout out Naruto's catchphrase. If that was true, he would even have golden blackmail on Kurama. At once the growling stopped and turned into slight whimpering as the other 2 tailed beasts suddenly felt the power coming off of the Halfa as the demon cat spoke. So you mean to say that we're dealing with the Phantom? That's just messed up in so many ways, and how are we even talking with each other right now anyways? This time it was Shikaku who spoke up while keeping a wary eye on the Halfa in front of them all. Simple. We're dealing with a Halfa who has underdeveloped telepathic powers that link us to him at night time, very peculiar since none of us other tailed beasts knew about a Halfa in our world. Danny only had a deadpan look on his face at this moment, as he no doubt knew what was going through the demon raccoon's mind. If you dare try to drain my power to escape from your seal, know that as soon as I'm back up to strength I would beat you black and blue before sucking you into a small metal thermos and shaking it for days on end. All smirks suddenly disappeared from the tailed beasts' faces at this moment, as they knew the skunk-haired boy in front of them was very serious about his threat and had the power to go through with it as well. Kit, it's scary when you make a threat I know you're capable of going through with. Danny gazed at Kurama and the other 2. Look, just so as I don't make any bad approaches outside of here. I can assume from your siblings' presence here, Kurama, is that their containers are close by as well. Matatabi nodded in acknowledgement. Yes, my kitten is inside the village with her genin team as well. She is about your age, maybe older, and quite a rebellious attitude. That's all I am going to say about her. Shikaku started to chuckle. My pitiful container is the youngest of his family and a psychotic persona as bloody as his hair. This got Danny a little nervous. Okay, I'll just leave this connection open while the 3 of you talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, and no offense Matatabi, but right now I really don't like cats. Kuruma at this started to laugh, and slowly Danny started to fade from the Mindscape to allow the 3 beasts to talk about things in private. When the Halfa was gone, the demon fox ceased its laughing and sobered up enough to speak to the others. The kid isn't really afraid of cats. It's one particular cat that likes to go by the name of Tora who attacks his face whenever it gets a chance for some reason. Time skip, morning. It was morning again, and the entire team was outside and on the bridge again while watching the Halfa easily defy logic once again. This time he was still doing the kunai balance, only it was on an iron railing rather than the wooden one. That meant that Danny and his weapons were parallel with the water below, and he wasn't even worried about it. This was the scene that Kakashi came upon, and he had an anime sweat drop upon seeing his most level-headed student doing this. Anyways. I know this is a bit sudden, but I recommended all 3 of you for the Chunin exams. These are the application forms. Kakashi presented his 3 students with the forms for them to enter. Now remember, this is all voluntary, and if you don't feel you're ready then you can wait till next year. You each have your own strengths and weaknesses to improve on before then. Naruto proceeded to tackle their sensei in a hug. Kakashi chuckled at his students' childish antics. It sort of reminded him of Guy and Lee. Alright then, listen up. Whoever decides to take the exams, you will need to sign the application and come to room 301 at the academy, 3 p.m., 5 days from now, that's it. With that the Jonin walked away. Danny ran after him wanting to ask a question about what happened on their mission in Wave. Guys, I'll catch up in a bit. Kakashi-sensei, do you have a moment? It's something I have been trying to figure out but it slipped my mind. Their sensei turned towards the Halfa as he had approached him. What seems to be the problem, Daniel? He asked with his usual smile. It's something that happened in my fight against Yagura. Kakashi covered his mouth as they were in a somewhat public place. For the first time his sensei looked a little stern. Keep your voice down, those words can easily cause a panic attack in any allied shinobi of Konoha. Danny froze at his carelessness. Guess he must be slipping. Sorry, just wanted to ask about something that I did and need to understand better. I had a little trouble trying to do so and nearly lost the fight. He was even mocking me for not knowing it. That got Kakashi's attention. And just what was it that he laughed at you about? He was mocking me about attempting to water walk even though I only had partial success. Partial, when did he? Kakashi thought back to the other battles and the only time he remembered the team seeing him water walk. Daniel was out cold. When did you? No. Daniel, what possessed you to even do water walking the first time in a battle with him? Danny rubbed his head in embarrassment. Well, I thought I had gotten a hold of the tree walking and the same should be said for water walking, right? One could hear Kakashi muttering curses and swear words. Danny could tell he was pretty angry. He couldn't exactly blame him though. Daniel, you took a completely dangerous risk during that mission and had placed everybody else's lives in greater risk. You can't go into every single battle hoping to just wing it and hope for the best. Daniel's temper rose a bit at that. Sensei, life is completely unexpected. I didn't know that Yagura was going to appear at that bridge until that very morning. Once I found out that my team had already left Tazuna's house, I feared that I may have been too late. Zabuza's appearance didn't help much either. So don't think that I went into that fight thinking that I could win. Once I found out that the majority of the hunter Nin came ahead of the Mizukage, I was afraid that I may have been too late. The most that I could have done at the time was at least keep Yagura away from you guys. He said all of this in 3 breaths. Sensei. I don't hold myself over everyone else because I think I am better than them at everything. I do it because I want to make sure that everyone got home alive and safely. Even if I did join you guys at the bridge, do you really think you and Zabuza could have handled the hunter Nin and the Mizukage together? For the first time Danny's eyes started to water. I do all these exercises and advanced control techniques so that I not only improve my stamina but also to make sure I don't lose anybody else. Ever again. Even if that includes my team and the clients. Kakashi was about to rebuke him for saying Yagura's name in public repeatedly, but he at least shown some sympathy to his student. He himself knew where he was coming from. Having already lost Rin and Obito. He had thrown himself into ANBU in order to drown the memories. Still he needed to set some things straight with his student as an act of repercussion. Until you can promise me that you won't take any more unnecessary risks while in a group, Daniel, I won't teach you anything else. That part on the water walking, you will need to learn on your own. Consider this as your punishment. You are still a part of Team 7 though. Danny bowed in understanding. Thank you, Sensei, and I apologize for worrying you. He got up and left to join his teammates. To be honest, it felt like a weight had been removed from the top of his chest. While the part about having to learn water walking on his own was disheartening, he felt it a suitable punishment. After a little while he tried using his abilities to locate Naruto through his chakra. He was still trying to locate though. The only reason he had trouble was because he was able to sense larger amounts of chakra. Sorry about that, Kakashi-sensei, and I needed to patch a few things up. His teammates nodded in understanding, seeing that being likely after what had happened on their last mission outside of the village. Danny. I know that you can sense us, but I needed to know something. Earlier on Naruto and I came across some people from Sunagakure. Two of the group were a boy in a catsuit and the other was a kunoichi. The third member of the group snuck up on even me. But for some reason he felt similar to the fourth Mizukage. Do you have any ideas on why? Upon hearing this, Danny glanced over his shoulder for a second as if feeling someone watching them before speaking. Let me take a guess, his name is Gaara, right? Sasuke confirmed his suspicions. Gaara is a Jinchuriki like Naruto, of what beast I don't know, yet from the fact you said he came from Sunagakure probably means he contains the one-tail or sand raccoon. Did he have what appeared to be a psychotic or sadistic persona? He did, and I-san. Danny groaned in frustration. The two of you be careful. From the information I had gathered, this guy is more sadistic than Zabuza. At this, Sasuke tilted his head to the side, filing away all this information before letting out a huff of air and speaking. So we have yet another Jinchuriki in the village besides Naruto. I still can't believe that the fourth would choose a dope like you to hold back a beast like that, better you than me though. Naruto gave his rival a deadpan look at this, remembering shortly after the shadow clone of their sensei had left about telling the last of the Uchiha clan about his burden. All three of them left to do their own thing for the rest of the day. Though unknown to Danny, the two were very nervous knowing that their friend had blackmail on them and could one day use it on them. Time skip, afternoon. Danny was doing some grocery shopping after hearing from Naruto that they were running low on food. Without even thinking, he stopped in place, put down his bags, and suddenly whipped around to deliver a powerful punch to a person's stomach that sent them flying down the street before going back to his shopping. At times like this, it was really good to be able to sense when a person was trying to sneak up on you with bad intentions. For a few more minutes everything was fine as the Halfa continued to walk around like nothing happened until there came a few crashes and shouts of angry people. The few people that glared at him for befriending Naruto only looked around for a moment until an ear-piercing scream caused their attention to go back to the skunk-haired boy. Get it off, get it off. Danny was on the ground trying to force Tora off of him once again as the demon of a cat tried to scratch his face off. A passerby walked towards Danny chuckling though, even if she enjoyed cats, this one was getting on his nerves. His rescuer, a blonde-haired genin wearing a short-sleeved black and purple blouse and black pants, both of which had a design similar to clouds on them, purple fingerless gloves and a chain of blue beads wound around her left hand. She also wore the standard Kyumo forehead protector, sandals and kunai holster which was strapped to her right thigh. She also wore bandages around her arms and legs as well as a red belt around her waist. This was none other than Yujito Ni from the village hidden by clouds, Kumogakure, a 13-year-old girl, and the Jinchuriki of the Two Tails, Matatabi. Ugh. Thanks for that. Not very many people are fond of that menace. The blondie nodded. For once, I may have to agree with you, Konoha Nin. I may like cats in general, but this thing. She shook her head. This thing, it gives other felines a bad name. Danny laughed at her comment. True. I know that cats have a bit of a loving nature, but its owner might want to consider a cage for that thing at this point. At least to give it a time out. He wiped his face with his sleeve. Never expected this as a first-time introduction. Yujito had to admit. Despite the cuts on his face and hairstyle, he looked rather peculiar if not interesting. I saw how you sent one of my comrades flying. Danny looked a little sheepish at that. Sorry about that, just instincts of survival and all. I'm used to it after all. Yujito chuckled as she shook her head. Don't be. Not everyone in Kumo is like that. Of course his ego could use a little toning down. It was somewhat funny though. Seeing him think he could get the jump on competition in the exams. I understand seeing my team is also going for it. Thanks for that, Yujito. My name's Nyujito. Daniel. Daniel Fenton for now. She raised her eyes at the name but then considered the possibilities on what her rakeage had relayed to her and her team. That someone had defeated Yagura from what his informants had gathered. Someone from Konoha with a rather odd hair pattern had ended the battle with Yagura in Wave. But he considered the individual to be an experienced jonin. This guy was only a genin. The Tora retrieval squad landed next to them with an animal carrier. You might want to go and get those scratches of yours cleaned up, Daniel-san. She smiled at him as he smiled back. See you around. Yujito. He responded as he picked up the groceries and made his way home. Yujito happened to hear one of the small group of people who were keeping hold of the cat speak. Seriously? How on earth does Tora manage to escape and track down a single person in the entire village without being seen? That boy has got to be cursed or something along the lines of this cat being a secret ninja that has set out for revenge on him. Slowly the others nodded their heads in acknowledgement before freezing as the cat turned its glare on them, letting out a soft growl. Without even thinking about it, the group quickly put the cat in the cage before it could lash out and left to return it to its owner. Scene shift. Danny returned home and slammed the door shut behind him as small tails of red and green BLD trickled down his face, then evaporated into steam. This was an upside to having ectoplasmic infused, chakra-enhanced BLD, it turned into steam upon leaving his physical contact. Catching his breath, Danny proceeded to take care of everything and collapsed onto a bed in the corner of his room. His room, unlike Naruto's, had a few pieces of paper here and there and a workbench that had various wires and pieces of metal on it. After a few moments of quietness though, the Halfa managed to pick himself up off the bed before walking over to his workbench and getting to work on inventing something. If there was one thing that prevented him from freaking out over Tora coming after him, it was the fact he could build something, anything that allowed him to pass the time. He soon left the room with a sketch pad and sat down on the couch to draw out a few ideas for new inventions. This was the scene that Naruto came back home to find and only stopped upon seeing a shadow clone of his brother in the kitchen speaking to him. Don't worry about me too much, Naruto, the real me just had a small run-in with Tora. Right now, he's trying to calm down. Sometimes that cat actually feels like a real monster myself. If only we had something to hold the blasted thing in for at least a little while. Though, I wonder what could have happened if I just got Tora and sent that cat against Pariah Dark as my secret weapon when he tried to invade. Might be hilarious to see the outcome. Unknown to them all at this moment was that Clockwork was looking, with his mouth wide open, at what would have happened if Danny had done this. The dreaded king of all ghosts resorted to cowering in the corner of his lair, covering his face in pain. All the while the dead king was muttering about the horrifying beast that was Tora and had laid waste to his kingdom on its own before he had realized what happened. As for said cat, it was just basking in the sun next to a bowl of milk and a bowl containing some salmon, freshly caught. Around it was the remains of the army of the former ghost king, which stood no chance against it whatsoever. Time skip, 5 days. It was finally the day of the Chunin exams and Team 7 made their way up the stairs as Danny spoke in a low enough whisper for only his team to hear. Never let your guard down, because we are going up against more experienced genin than ourselves. We should also be careful about what we say, so to not attract more attention to ourselves than need be. This means don't be your egotistical self, Naruto, and try not to get on others' nerves, because we don't need more people out to kill us as it is. Just because we fought against Hunter Neen in Wave doesn't mean we could have better luck here. The blonde just smiled a fox-like grin as a shiver went up his spine upon hearing the slightly demanding tone his brother used. Even Sasuke had a strong time hearing the tone and trying not to shiver. Team 7 came to an empty area where someone named Rock Lee challenged Sasuke, who was the Rookie of the Year, against himself, a genius of strong work. Danny felt his eye twitch. Sure, he may have worn spandex in the past, but come on, even he who was at the bottom of the social ladder had better selection of color taste than this. This guy gave a lot of those who wore spandex a bad name. The guy had a sleek black bowl-cut hairstyle, skin-tight green jumpsuit with orange leg warmers. Rock Lee had heard of the Uchiha clan and wanted to test himself against Sasuke to see if the so-called stories of the Uchiha clan were true. "Hey Bushi!" Naruto called out to him. "Don't think that just cause we're in the exams you get to fight Sasuke right here and now. You want to fight him? Then get in line." "No thank you," he called out as he swatted Naruto away. The two fought against each other. Even when Sasuke had his Sharingan active, he still had some trouble trying to even land a hit. Lee was about to use some taijutsu to end the fight when he was interrupted by a red turtle of all things. "That's enough, Lee," it said. Mean game. That can't be Bushy Brows Sensei, can it?" Naruto questioned his teammates. Danny shook his head. "Don't be stupid, Naruto. The only animals that can talk in the human tongue here are summons, and by the looks of it, I am guessing that summon of his belongs to his sensei. Am I wrong?" "Mean game." Chuckling, the turtle turned towards him. "You are correct there, young one." Lee, another guy looking exactly like Rock Lee, had appeared. "What have I told you about using that technique here?" "I am sorry, Guy Sensei, but I greatly wanted to prove myself against another Rookie of the Year." The two got into a bit of a talk that got too emotional and ended up with a sunset genjutsu in the background scaring the three out of there. "Even I have never seen something that frightening." "That is just wrong," Danny remarked as they came across their sensei. "Glad that all of you came. Now you can all formally register for the Chunin exams." Naruto, Danny, and Sasuke all looked up at their sensei with confusion and determination in their eyes as the jonin continued. "You see, only groups of 3 are allowed to apply for and take the exam. That's the way it's always been, Sasuke. Naruto. Daniel. I'm proud of all of you." With that, the silver-haired jonin took a step to the side and the group entered the room to find a large group of people looking at them. Once they got inside, Sasuke was suddenly tackled into a hug by none other than Ino Yamanaka, which made the black-haired boy frown. With ease, though, the last of the Uchiha clan easily slipped out of the grip and proceeded to give the girl a deadpanned look. Danny ignored everyone as he gazed around the room, everyone there, until his sight fell upon someone with dark eyes. He recognized them as none other than Yujito Ni, the Jinchuriki of the Two Tails, and not too far from her was Gaara. This made Danny raise an eyebrow for a moment as he realized most of the people were looking at him, no doubt because of his hair and eye colors. Without a word, the Halfa turned his attention back to the group of genin he was with, due to Team 8 and 10 suddenly converging with them and talking. He stayed quiet for the most part and only raised an eyebrow upon noticing that Hinata Hyuga was blushing while looking at Naruto, who kept glancing at her out of the corner of his eye every now and then. It was quite painfully obvious that the two liked each other, with only the pale-eyed girl being the most obvious in her affection. His attention was drawn over to Kabuto Yakushi, who had taken out his deck of cards and was now speaking about him for some reason. "Daniel Fenton Phantom, same age as you, mission experience. 19 D rank, 1 B rank, and 1 C rank turned A rank. His squad leader is Kakashi Hatake. His skills. I have never seen anything like this before." Looking down at the card, Danny could see that the area for his skills had 2/5 being half full, probably for ninjutsu and taijutsu. The next third showed kenjutsu or swordsmanship, which was quite high, of course. The last fifth showed fuinjutsu, which didn't show much but at least had a small degree filled in. His skills looked to be unknown in some areas. He came to Konohagakure from outside the elemental nations, but from where is unknown. His team members are Naruto Uzumaki, and Sasuke Uchiha. The last thing is, he's an inventor of some sort, had an accident which permanently changed his appearance, and has access to a second source of energy known as, what the heck is ectoplasm? By now the small group was looking at the skunk-haired with the exception of Naruto, who already knew most of this but was oblivious to the last question as the Halfa spoke with a bit of a grin. All I'll tell you is that it is a high toxic and dangerous material that is similar to chakra. In fact, it's so similar that the two are incompatible and normally explode when in contact with each other. For a moment everyone was quiet as Danny continued to think about something before finally speaking again. For the most part, you're probably talking to a living, breathing, bomb that could go off at any moment and take out everything with it in a 10-mile radius. As if on instinct, everyone in the room took a step back from the living, and highly toxic, bomb out of fear and hoping to God that he didn't suddenly blow up. Some people were thinking along the lines, should he even be in the exams? Before anything else could happen though, a cloud of smoke started to appear and a voice spoke up. "Alright, you baby fancy generates, pipe down and listen up. It's time to begin. I'm Ibiki Marino, your proctor, and from this moment, your worst enemy. Now take a number from this bowl and go to your assigned seats." Slowly everyone was moved into different seats around the class and away from their teammates as instructions were delivered by their proctor. There are a few rules you need to be aware of, and I won't answer any questions, so you better pay attention the first time around. Slowly Danny listened to the rules from his seat next to Gaara, who turned his head slightly to look at him. Both Yujito and Gaara could tell that the beasts inside of them were slightly uneasy to be around the skunk-haired boy for some reason. With that the test began, and after going over the instructions of the proctor, he gaped. Danny couldn't believe that the teacher discreetly told them to cheat without being caught. Mentally he grinned while looking down at the sheet of paper in front of him before quickly writing down the answers. One thing Danny was glad about was his near photographic memory, thanks to his time spent at Clockwork's place and developed his omniscience power. This, combined with the fact he had read up on an insane amount of things, meant that he already knew the answers to the first 9 questions. Something smells rotten here and it isn't my smoking pencil, oops. Finally realizing that his pencil was starting to smoke, Danny set it down while quickly praying that it didn't suddenly burst into flames or something. Luck was on his side today as he placed it down without anything more but smoke before glancing up slightly and looking around the room. Eyes falling upon Naruto, though the Halfa cursed his luck upon realizing that the purpose of the test was to gather information from others without getting caught, and his brother looked like he was about to have a panic attack. The only downside to this was that the blonde didn't have anything that would be of help for this test or the mental state, and it wasn't like he had any power that would be of help for this. He just had to hope that his brother would be able to use the last question to pass the test, whatever it was. Over time multiple people were taken out of the room, and within this time people found out the real meaning of the test, including Naruto, who was stuck at an impasse. Even when his semi-crush Hinata offered him the ability to cheat off of her, he wasn't going to try and do it, as he put all his faith into the last question, which he realized would be a trick question. As for Ino, she tried to get into the Halfa's mind, only to be pushed aside like it was nothing alongside the guy next to him. Gaara once again glanced at the Halfa as he went about and drew something on the back of his test that looked along the lines of a blueprint of some sort that was too advanced for even him to understand. Even Gaara found it slightly interesting that he was sitting next to an inventor who had finished the test early, which was obviously expected, as it were. After all, an inventor would be smarter than a good majority of people. Back to Naruto, he was slowly starting to write down answers with a slight smirk on his face upon realizing he had one advantage over others. That advantage was he had an inventor as a brother and a second conscious in his head that he could use. TCH, took you long enough to realize me, kid. Now keep writing what I tell you from all those times your brother spoke to you about things that you didn't understand, but I did. Seriously, Fox, you decide to come out and speak to me in the last 20 minutes of this test of all times? Naruto shook his head slightly as the Fox helped him through the next 10 minutes, and everyone was none the wiser that this was happening. Danny had to tilt his head to the side upon realizing that something was off with his blonde brother, as he suddenly got a huge confidence boost. Sasuke, after a minute of thought, also realized this and smirked, now knowing that his teammate was using a combination of his brother and tenant to help him pass. So the dobe is using that DMN Fox and its knowledge on what it has pertained from his brother to pass. nice going Naruto. Thinking back on it, the last of the Uchiha clan had to frown upon remembering the blonde's revelation to him after the shadow clone of Kakashi had left. He was obviously surprised upon hearing the reason that the blonde was hated was due to the Kyubi no Kitsune being imprisoned inside of him. But it was also this reason that Sasuke respected the blonde slightly to consider him a rival, especially after finding out from Danny what his teammate had to go through. This little revelation combined with some thought made the black-haired boy realize that if Naruto was this strong as he worked with practically nothing and no one willing to help him, then he needed to rely on his own power and his friends to accomplish his own goals, without it being handed to him on a silver platter. Sasuke, Flamma, and Sakura. It was lunchtime at the academy and Danny was just putting the finishing touches on his flamethrower for the INT department. Right now though, it was just a regular everyday old flamethrower, that probably was more interesting in this world than his old world. By now though, the skunk-haired boy needed something to eat, so he got up and left the room he had commandeered for his invention. Sasuke was curious, he had seen Danny entering and leaving a signal room for the past week during lunch at the academy. Though he wouldn't admit it, he was actually interested in what it was. The boy was clearly up to something and he would figure out what it was. As such, he was secretly waiting by using one of Naruto's tricks, a bed sheet painted to look like a wall. As soon as the Halfa was gone, the last Uchiha quickly dropped said bed sheet before slowly walking into the room. After looking around, the only thing that Sasuke could find remotely interesting was some sort of silver contraption on a random desk. Getting curious, the black-haired boy walked over to it and picked it up to examine the thing. Pointing it away from him, the last of the Uchiha clan pulled the trigger and nearly dropped the thing when a burst of flame came out of the end. Now he was interested, and with a grin he pointed it at a random desk before pulling a trigger. As the flames came out, he got an evil glint in his eye before letting out an evil laugh and speaking. "Burn, burn, burn. I will burn you, Icha. I will burn you to the ground. Muahahaha." Somewhere Icha was shivering for no apparent reason, but he expected it had something to do with his younger brother. Time skip, 15 minutes. Danny was returning to the room where he had kept his invention, after grabbing his lunchbox, when he could smell smoke. Then there was the strange bedsheet on the ground, and an orange glow coming from under the door to the room he had left his invention in. Finally he could hear someone laughing like a maniac from inside of said room. Being careful, he easily set his lunchbox down before slowly walking to said door and opening it. There inside of said room, was none other than Sasuke Uchiha sitting in the middle of a burning room and slowly stroking the flamethrower he had built. If this wasn't enough, said black-haired boy was clutching said item, and slowly stroking it while muttering things along the line of precious, and calling the thing, did he just say Flamma? Without thinking, Danny easily reached into his pocket before pulling out a camera and quickly taking a signal picture of the scene. Upon seeing a flash, Sasuke quickly sprang up while holding his precious Flamma, after kissing it, before shouting. "You will not take the precious." Quickly the last Uchiha pulled the trigger, only for a small burst of flame to come out, causing him to cry and start cuddling the thing again before Danny spoke. Sasuke, you do know that, oh never mind, you're too far gone to be reasoned with now, so that means, rehabilitation." Quickly taking a deep breath, Danny couldn't help the grin coming to his face before shouting at the top of his lungs. "Sasuke, why the heck are you only wearing your underwear in here, and what are you doing with Flamma?" The Halfa suddenly ducked to the side as Sakura quickly charged into the room screaming before using his camera to get photographic evidence of what was to come. Little to say, Sakura would find herself being held back a year for fangirl issues, and attacking a student who toasted an entire room in self-defense, when these photos were on Irika's desk. Too bad for Sasuke that he wouldn't quite remembered what happened with the flamethrower, only that he did something with it and that Sakura was never to be trusted any time soon ever again. Naruto, Ramen, and Mr. Fox. It was late in the night when Danny had finally finished writing down all the information for his latest experiments and findings. On the bright side, he had just discovered the secret to defeating the mounting amounts of paperwork, by having rotating shadow clones work on them. If he didn't have them rotate though, the clones would get angry and suddenly set the papers on fire while chanting something along the lines of, "Burn baby, burn," under their breath. With a tired sigh he grabbed the video camera by his side and made his way out of his little lab. Thanks to some renovations in the apartment he didn't need to go outside to get to his room, to get his bed. Another plus was that they weren't required to go to any classes tomorrow, meaning he could sleep in if need be, which he really needed to at this point, lest he go into autopilot mode. But all thoughts were suddenly dashed as he quietly walked to his door before pausing upon seeing the kitchen light on. Quickly and quietly the Halfa walked towards the end of the corridor before taking a peek around the corner, the camera somehow managing to also poke from around the corner as well. There, sitting at the table, with a bowl of ramen, and a life-size fox plushie, was none other than Naruto. But what threw him for a little loop was the fact that Naruto was either using a henge, or wearing a lifelike costume of a fox, and was somehow still asleep by the looks of it. "Why yes, Mr. Fox, I would like more of this delicious meal you have made, but I would also like some dessert later." Danny's jaw dropped as he noticed that something was seriously wrong with this picture before looking down at the camera. He was suddenly blown back, almost unconscious, by the sight of a feminine Naruto with half-opened, lust-filled eyes. Now he just had to act before something bad happened, and forgetting about the camera in hand, quickly rushed out to stop his brother. "Naruto, there is an all-you-can-eat ramen buffet being served at Ramen Ichiraku, and it lasts for the next 3 hours. There is even a discount for those who have blonde spiky hair and whisker marks on their face." The effect was Naruto suddenly being sent flying backwards out of the chair and turning back to normal, still wearing the fox costume, before hitting the wall. After that he groaned before looking up and quickly opening the costume's mouth, which turned out to be a hood of some sort, and speaking, "Free ramen. Wait, what the heck am I doing out here with Mr. Fox, and since when did I own a fox costume, and why am I covered in? No, the ramen." The blonde was on the ground and crying as he started to lick the precious ramen as Danny stared at him with a blank expression on his face. Without a word Danny left, while still holding the still recording camera and not even wanting to remember this day for as long as he had lived. It was also the first time he had seen Naruto use that perverted henge that he would later find out was called, the sexy technique. Needless to say, the skunk-haired boy was going to have some words to say with the Kyuubi quite soon about what it almost made Naruto do, subconsciously or not. Rock Lee and Clockwork. Sasuke had his Sharingan active as he watched the two interact with one another. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. The two embraced one another, making the sunset genjutsu appear behind them. Naruto and Sasuke would never be able to forget it. The blondie would be traumatized by this for years to come, and Sasuke would never get this out of his head. The Uchiha attempted to dispel it, but even Danny, who could see through genjutsu with one of his green eyes or both of them, had to close both of them to end the illusion. Even without the illusion it was just plain wrong. He at least tried to bring his comrade some comfort when he saw the Sharingan active. "You know, Sasuke, since you had your Sharingan active and it copies Jutsu, do you think you can make other people, even enemies like your brother, see that?" The last Uchiha glared at the skunk-haired Halfa. "I wouldn't even use that on Itachi. Not even another Kage-level shinobi." Elsewhere Orochimaru was thanking everyone he knew in the snake's realm that he would not be a victim to that monstrosity. Clockwork on the other hand though. In the Tower of Time. Clockwork looked at his screen, shivering at the thought, then he was about to get something to take his mind off things when the observants burst into the room. Getting a little idea for revenge, he switched on the screen to the sunset genjutsu. The end result was the green-eyed blob shoot screaming out of the room shouting, "It burns! It burns!" The time ghost smiled, least he now had a weapon of his own to use. "Alright, listen up, here's the 10th and final question. But, before I give you the question, there are some more rules that you need to be aware of." Danny looked forward with determination in his mixed eyes. Naruto and Sasuke were giving their entire attention to the instructor. Using his power of omniscience, Danny smirked in seeing what his brother was about to do. The blonde gave a rousing speech which caught the Chunin exam proctor Marino Ibiki off guard. Their proctor chuckled as he explained the real reason for the last question and about honor. Danny muttered in regards to the question. Honor is valuable in the life of a ninja, but having too much honor is just as dangerous as well. The people of my homeland learned that the strong way multiple times. Some people call it being soft. A black ball of cloth came hurtling through the window, catching everyone's attention as a banner was applied to the ceiling by two kunai and a purple-haired kunoichi appeared from within the cloth. Nearly everyone caught the sign saying the next proctor of the exam, the great Enko Mitarashi. The group of genin had a face of confusion, killing the mood of the excitement. You're early again, Enko. Ibiki dryly remarked. She looked a little put off at his response, seeing how correct he was. Enko looked around the room, counting all the people who were still in the room. She did a double take, then smiled at the number, almost bursting out laughing. 23. Bwahahahaha. She started cackling. 23. 23. Ibiki, if I didn't know better I'd say you would have gotten beyond soft. Or this batch actually looked rather promising. Ibiki retorted. She smirked at him. Well then, once I am done with them, that number will be cut in half probably. Heads up, boys and girls, this is no time to be celebrating. I'll be your next proctor, Enko Mitarashi. You think that the written test was strong? You rookies haven't seen anything yet. Meet me outside training ground 44 tomorrow morning at 8. Everyone had a blank look on their faces, uncertain on what to think about their next proctor for the Chunin exams. Danny had an anime sweat drop at seeing the weird snake lady with a dango obsession being the proctor for the exam. Team 7 walked outside of the academy talking about the test. Naruto was rather informative on how he managed to stay calm near the end. Yeah, I realized the point of the test about halfway through, but I didn't really have any techniques I could really use to help me, so, let's just say I had an inside source of information to help me. Naruto spoke with his signature fox-like grin while Sasuke shook his head, half smile on his face, and Danny had a schooled face showing no emotion before speaking himself. It's nice that the inside source has taken an interest in you, Naruto, but be careful, they might just try to take advantage of you in the end. Sometimes they can want something in return. The blonde gave his brother a deadpan look upon hearing this, already knowing that it might happen, while the fox just laughed before speaking to him. You know, I really like that kid, who knows? Maybe in time, I may just be willing to help you out without wanting anything in return, though don't count on it anytime soon, kid. Naruto closed his eyes upon hearing this as the entire team was quiet for a few minutes, until Sasuke spoke up. If you need me, I'll be with Kakashi. Hopefully he can give some advice to help pass the exam. With that, Sasuke walked away. Naruto and Danny stayed where they were trying to figure out something to do. Well, if you need me, I'll be home trying to talk with my inside source of information. Who knows, maybe I can finally figure out who my family is. With that, the blonde walked away with a grin on his face as the skunk-haired boy ended up shaking his head at how stupid he was. Even now he could figure out who his brother's father was, since they looked alike, and even had to wonder how stupid people really were to not figure it out. I swear these people have got to be some sort of insane to not be able to see the similarities between them, but it was this same stupidity that allowed me to keep my secret back home as well. Danny had a deadpan look on his face upon remembering how easy his secret identity could have been revealed back in Amity Park, yet still no one was able to figure out who he was, including a government organization and scientists. Yes, he was a scientific impossibility, but still, someone should have been able to figure it out at least before he left. Sighing, he made his way home. Yet he came face to face with Gaara, who was looking at him with a raised eyebrow. You're the third member of Sasuke Uchiha's team. Mother tells me to stay far away as much as possible from you. Mother is never scared. Sorry mother, but I must know. He said the last part as a mutter. Danny felt uneasy about the tone of voice, but managed to shake it off as he looked into the Jinchuriki in the eye before speaking. Gaara of the desert, resident ninja of Sunagakure and Jinchuriki of the one-tailed beast Shikaku. Gaara's eyes narrowed slightly upon hearing this and upon hearing what he thought was his mother still telling him to get away. Omnipotence worked wonders sometimes. The sand ninja let out a low growl as he glared at Danny, who shrugged at the response. I have some special abilities, and though I'm not a Jinchuriki, I can of course sense those that are, and after some thought, which beast is sealed inside of them. Yours in a way is also a bit of a giveaway. Given how Shikaku controls sand and your chakra strength is higher than that of my sensei. With that, Danny leaned against a tree glancing at Gaara as he tea before turning to look at Gaara, who after a moment spoke. Apparently you also know more about the tailed beasts and other villages as well. The village hidden in the leaves has a truly unique ally indeed. Best keep your guard up, Daniel Fenton Phantom. Yes, mother, I will leave now. I will not attempt to get his BLD. With that said, the sand ninja slowly started to walk back towards his team. The Halfa frowned as he got a bad vibe that he needed to watch his back a lot more now. His fears were accurate as he heard another voice speak from above. You know, that Gaara character is right. If you really know about the tailed beasts, then you would make a valuable ally or enemy. Though I will admit he is slightly crazy if this was anything to go by. Glancing up, Danny saw none other than Yujito Ni looking down at him with a smirk on her face. I would introduce myself, but seeing on how you already know my name and I already know you're Daniel, so there really isn't any point now, is there? The blonde ninja easily dropped from the tree and landed on the ground, feet first, before getting up and turning around to face the Halfa. You're right about that, but around here most people call me Danny. Unlike most people, I don't really have any hatred for Jinchuriki or the tailed beasts inside of them. Even if they are close to you. It depends solely on their actions. Yujito nodded. From your words I can tell that there is a Jinchuriki in Konoha as well. You also know who they are but don't care. Why is it that Matatabi feels uneasy but at the same time excited around you? Also, are you going to tell me who this kid is, or am I going to have to guess? The blonde smiled as her tailed beast was practically screaming inside her head for asking those questions. As for Danny, he was stunned at what he was just told. Usually whenever he used his omnipotence abilities he needed a few clues to narrow down a search. That's how he found out more information regarding Gaara. But, he never would have guessed that Yujito was the other Jinchuriki, though from what he could figure out her bijou was the cat he saw. Danny cleared his throat before speaking. In reverse, you are going to have to guess. There is a law saying that anyone caught talking about who the tailed beast is and who said beast is sealed into is instantly sentenced to death. Namely for protection, and I would need to be given permission from said Jinchuriki or the Hokage to speak of it. As for the first question, I'm not at liberty to tell you much besides the fact that my homeland had some history regarding discrimination. Yujito nodded and was about to leave before he stopped her. Since you asked me a question, would you mind if I asked you one of my own? It's in regards to your tailed beast. This grabbed Yujito's attention. To be honest, I never would have guessed you were a Jinchuriki, Yujito. As far as I am aware of, each of the tailed beasts is a user of a certain element. Shikaku's was sand. The Sanbai's was water, I think, and while yours is fire, I can tell that there was more to it than that. Even your bijou's chakra feels different from the two I already know. Even my chakra sensing abilities are telling me that. Am I right? If so, what else am I missing? Yujito smirked at him. You're right in those points, congrats to you on that. But while you are correct on those, the only thing that you're missing is that the two-tailed cat has power over energy of the dead. This caught him off guard. He would definitely need to be careful around her, as Danny didn't know how his powers would fare against her tailed beast, even if it was said to be weaker than the Sanbai. Before either of the two could say anything, there came a crash and Danny tensed for a second before suddenly screaming as something latched onto his face. Get it off, get it off, get it off. Tora had got loose yet again and instantly tracked the skunk-haired boy down in order to attack him. Everyone was suddenly looking at him as the cat viciously attacked the boy like a ninja would do their enemy. All the ninja of the Leaf Village were paralyzed with fear though as Yujito blinked once before reaching into her pocket to bring something out. The cat suddenly froze before jumping off of Danny's face and into the girl's arms to attack the catnip as the Halfa continued to breathe. Soon the team arrived and easily took Tora away, after raising an eyebrow at the whole thing, but as soon as the cat was gone, Danny's eyes staring straight ahead made an announcement. "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Yujito. I do not know how to thank you enough." Danny proclaimed repeatedly as he looked at her in shock and relief. "I would have tried too strong to even create something to end that thing. But you did something for the whole village and for me. Yujito, I hereby give you the title of Tora the Demon Cat Charmer." Matatabi found the title a little insulting as she was a Nekatama herself even if she saw the reason for the kid's declaration. The cat itself looked to have lost its sanity. That was when it hit her. Kurama mentioned his reason for not liking cats at the time. Was this the reason? The house cat named Tora? She chuckled at the thought. Yujito was quiet for a moment as everyone from Konoha and those from the other villages laughing at the pathetic sight of the cat attacking a genin and winning. Slowly Danny got up as his red and green BLD slowly trickled down his face and turned into steam upon hitting the ground. What was that all about and what the heck is wrong with your BLD? Yujito looked at the skunk-haired boy for a moment who easily managed to wipe some dust off of him and his wounds slowly closed in front of her eyes. Side effect of my ability and for the first part, the cat belongs to the fire daimyo's wife as her cat keeps getting loose and every single shinobi always has trouble trying to capture that thing if they are assigned that thing for a mission. Me though, it seems to have made me its own personal target. As you can see. At this Danny easily turned around and left while Yujito looked at him slightly confused before blushing. That boy is something else. But Matatabi, he's kinda cute, and his hair, I've never seen anything like that before, anywhere in the elemental nations. Giggling a bit the Jinchuriki easily turned around and started to walk away. As for the shinobi around the area, they retained the urge to slam their heads into something repeatedly for not thinking of something so simple. Time skip, next day. Danny was tense, extremely tense as he stood in the crowd of ninja from other villages and looked around. The reason was that he had a feeling something bad was going to happen soon. Last time he felt this way was in Wave. Gaara had basically made it clear he might be an interest to other villages, and for some reason he was sure that someone was watching his group. They were in front of Training Ground 44 or better known as the Forest of Death. Team 10 looked a little ill. Especially Ino. Choji was asking what they would need to do for food. To which Enko replied that there was plenty of wild plants and animals to eat. As well as any poisonous ones. Enko warned them they only had 5 days for each team to acquire one scroll opposite of their own. One heaven and one earth scroll. They were warned not to open any of them. Candidates were given a waiver in case of accidental death. For Danny though, he couldn't help but feel like this was kind of redundant since he was literally half dead himself. With this in mind though the skunk-haired boy simply signed his name before heading over to the proctor to hand in his form alongside his team. Naruto though was handed a heaven scroll which he immediately handed over to his brother while speaking. Hey Danny, you might be better at holding on to this than any of us, especially if we get captured or anything since there is no telling what you have on you right now. The instructor simply looked over at the skunk-haired boy who simply smirked upon hearing this and grabbed the scroll to slip it away. When he was seemingly putting it in his pocket though the Halfa easily sent it into a pocket dimension where it would stay, until he needed it again. Soon after they were standing in front of Gate 12 and Naruto was more than ready for anything with his fox-like grin. When the doors opened, Team 7 leapt into the Forest of Death. As soon as they were out of earshot, Danny spoke to his team. Naruto, Sasuke, could you to hold up for one moment? I would like to give you something now that we are deep enough into the forest. It may not be much but in case we get separated I have one thing we can use and no one can copy it. Sitting down, the black-haired boy reached into one of his ninja packs and drew out his own scroll of sealing that drew the attention of his teammates. When he opened it, Naruto and Sasuke were already on lookout just in case something happened. Danny quietly pumped some of his own ecto-energy and chakra into the scroll while concentrating on what he wanted. Sure enough, in a poof of smoke, 3 small devices that were like the wireless headphones and mics that the ninja used on missions appeared. Unlike them though, they were all sleek and weren't connected to any regular power source, so after grabbing them and putting the scroll away, the Halfa spoke. These are a remake of my parents' own invention, and unlike the originals, these are sleeker, have a longer range, and we can use them to keep in touch in case we get separated. At this, Danny put one of the earpieces in while Naruto and Sasuke each grabbed one and put them in as well. All you need to do to talk is push the button on the side and speak in a low voice. This will in turn allow us to talk with the others. They also communicate on a special frequency, meaning that in case any of the other teams have something like ours, they won't be able to tap in and listen to us. As an added bonus, once you put it on, they key in only your chakra signature, making it so that only you can use them until I reset the devices, which can only be done back in my workshop. The 2 other members of Team 7 were impressed to say the least, as they easily put the earpiece in and pumped some of their chakra into it as well to get things started. Right. Naruto, use your shadow clones to scout ahead and try to find us a target. Danny, act as point. I'll bring up our rear. Sasuke spoke, and soon enough the team was ready for action, but right before Naruto could create some shadow clones, he realized he had to go to the bathroom. Around them people were screaming and Danny was tense as he looked around while waiting for something to happen. Naruto came out of the bushes, but something was off. Sasuke didn't even look twice before throwing his kunai knife at the fake Naruto, who was missing a scar that was given to him by their proctor and his headpiece. Sasuke didn't wait as he attacked the fake blonde, and soon the real one returned and was on the defensive as the fake turned out to be a rain ninja. Turns out the fake had branched off from his own team as he admitted to not having the scroll for them. Danny and Naruto looked at each other. This could be harder than they thought. We need to stay on guard in here or else something may happen to us. Let's move before we're attacked again. The last of the Uchiha clan spoke as everyone nodded, and while on the move the skunk-haired boy activated his limited omniscience power to look around for a good target. Guys, I think we're about to be ambushed by a team with an earth scroll. Danny spoke as he leapt to another tree, and this in turn caused Naruto and Sasuke to get tense as they did the same. Apply chakra to your feet. Now. They may have prepared for an ambush but not an invisible jutsu. The strong wind was completely unexpected. Danny turned intangible to avoid it, but found out the strong way that even if he was intangible he was still vulnerable to the wind. He went sailing through the canopy of the trees. The intangibility wasn't helping, as usually intangibility made things lighter. At one moment Danny came to another empty clearing as he solidified to get some traction and applied chakra to his feet. Naruto, Sasuke, where are you? He asked into his headpiece. Enai-san. Some grass ninja came out of the woods disguised as you. Sasuke was able to see through it when he asked him something from your profile. Good thing it was pretty tight. Didn't help when he didn't have your headpiece, even though he claimed to have lost it. Danny nodded. Hang on, I am heading back. Scene shift. Sasuke and Naruto kept up their assault in trying to bring the grass shinobi down. Of course they were not having very much luck. Naruto sent shadow clone after him. But he wasn't making very much progress. Sasuke tried getting in a few fireballs, but the grass ninja kept evading them with ease. One fireball did catch him and seemed like they won, but they weren't surprised as the one attacking came out of the ground. Danny landed next to his team. Sasuke and Naruto were happy to see their comrade make it. They would have questioned him. But Naruto saw the customized headpiece. The grass ninja sent out a earth jutsu at the tired genin. Earth style, earth tsunami. Danny took his comrades and went intangible as the wave hit. The jutsu brought them a dust cloud which clouded the ninja's vision of what they did. Danny took his hands off once he was sure the attack passed. Of course he was confused when they appeared unharmed from the attack. So you prepared yourselves for my little attack, no matter, you would love to get your hands on our earth scroll, wouldn't you? He asked as he produced an earth scroll from his pocket. If you want it. Come and get it. The attacking ninja swallowed said earth scroll much to the disgust of Naruto and Sasuke. Danny was, slightly disturbed at the sight. Well, when this is all over, one of us will have both scrolls, and the other will be dead. Team 7 now looked into the eyes of the enemy completely frozen, with the exception of Danny whose own eyes glowed with an otherworldly intensity. Instead of just showing his regular eyes, both of them shined his ethereal green glow. He placed his hands on his teammates as he broke the illusion on them. Danny's omnipotence gave him some bit of a headway. All he saw the first time is that the person looked to be in their mid-20s and had an affinity with the earth. He couldn't see who they were though. Eventually though the team managed to escape before they were all taken out by the enemy who decided to give chase to them. Feeling they should at least put up a fight, they landed in a small clearing a few yards out of the way. The three were now surrounding the ninja who had swallowed the scroll while they looked around almost impressed before speaking. So all three of you were able to overcome my little fear trick, then let's see how you managed to hold against my friend. The man from the grass village suddenly pulled up his sleeve and then ran BLD down the mark on his arm. Calling out, summoning jutsu. Suddenly a giant snake appeared and Danny was left staring wide-eyed upon realizing who they were dealing with. Naruto, Sasuke, run. He's one of the legendary Sanin, Orochimaru, and is a missing ninja from our own village, trained by the Hokage himself. Naruto and Sasuke froze in place upon hearing this as the now identified Orochimaru looked at the Halfa, anger plastered on his face, furious that his cover had already been blown. Team 7 fled the scene hoping to put distance between the man and themselves. Nevertheless, Orochimaru caught up to them in seconds. Danny knew that Orochimaru was out of their league and that he needed to get them out of there. But by the looks of it, Sasuke and Naruto were letting their thirst for battle and rivalry get the best of them as they turned and attacked the snake head-on. Sasuke removed some ninja wire wrapping Orochimaru with it and Naruto sent their opponent off his snake flying to the ground. Orochimaru landed on the ground with his own snake coiling around him. Danny sighed as he turned around to go and assist them. Kurama was conversing inside Naruto. CRP, Kit, if you're going to stand any chance against this guy then you're going to need my power whether you like it or not. In the blonde's head the QB spoke suddenly as the group watched the enemy ninja reach up to their face and pull off the mask they were wearing. Everyone of Team 7 looked at each other for a small moment before nodding. Without a word Sasuke activated his Sharingan with 2 tomos in each eye as he leaned into a combat stance. Naruto leaned into a combat stance as well while his eyes turned into that of the 9-tailed fox, his whisker marks grew more prominent, his hair grew even wilder, and his canines became more prominent. As for Danny he got ready to fight but wondered if he should change into his other form. It could give Orochimaru what he wanted, a test subject. So all of Konoha's best heavy hitters in one team, you still choose to fight, this should be an interesting battle. The snake suddenly struck out at Danny thinking he was the weakest, only to be blown away as a ring of pure energy surrounded him. Naruto and Sasuke stared wide-eyed at the sight as the ring separated in two, but apparently did nothing as the Halfa let out his haunting aura. If you want to fight on your hands Orochimaru, then I can guarantee you, it's not going to happen. If you want a one-sided battle, I'll be happy to oblige. Danny leapt up sending an uppercut into the snake's jaw sending it straight into the air. He followed that by grabbing onto the snake summon's tail and started swngng the reptile all over the place as he tried to hit the Sanin with his own summon. Orochimaru kept maneuvering around the trees as he attempted to get in a blow himself using his own speed to evade the summons. Eventually the summons had enough and went away leaving a poof of smoke. Taking a kunai from his pouch he had applied an explosive note to the blade and tossed it in the direction of the snake Sanin. Orochimaru evaded it with ease. Danny's eyes glowed green with the kunai changing direction in midair and coming to settle behind Orochimaru at the middle of his spine, tag glowing. Is this the best the so-called brother to the Kyuubi brat got? Danny smirked at the Sanin, eyes flashing green. You may be a Sanin, but even the most basic of techniques can be altered to take down the more powerful opponents. An explosion rang out, catching Orochimaru off guard as it threw him forward. Danny took this chance to attack him with an ecto-ray, which resulted in pushing the snake Sanin back and slamming him into a tree. The pain from that attack was excruciating. More so than even the impact from hitting the tree. He couldn't even figure out why. Taking a kunai in hand, he launched his prehensile tongue around the child and brought him in for a kill. Danny charged his hand up with ecto-lighting and held it to the Sanin's tongue. Orochimaru stood there as the lighting passed through his body, contracting all of his muscles. Anybody who experienced that was sure to not just walk away. Orochimaru just stood there panting. The after effects of the lighting still lingering for the time being. The snake Sanin laughed like a madman, so much power in one child, let alone the entire team. I may be crazy, but I don't have a death wish. Yet, I can't leave without a parting gift for any of you now, can I? Everyone was tense at this point as they prepared for anything before witnessing the snake use a jutsu that made his neck extend outwards. The head was now heading towards Danny, who tried to repel the head but failed as the Sanin's head bit his neck. The skunk-haired boy yelled out a scream pain before turning intangible to remove the venom out of his system, much to Orochimaru's surprise. Sasuke looked on in fear as Danny's haunting aura came out threefold. Naruto, Sasuke. He announced sweetly. Would you two mind waiting for me about 100 yards that direction? He asked, pointing behind him. Since our uninvited guest seems so eager to give us parting gifts, I am going to give him one of my own. The two teammates did not want to see what he had in mind for Orochimaru, who was apparently starting to look paler than usual. Sasuke gestured for Naruto to follow him. The moment they were out of sight enough, they heard what sounded like Orochimaru's scream of pain. The next time they saw their teammate, he was smiling like he didn't have a care in the world, tossing up the earth scroll up and down. Sasuke was speechless. Danny, how did you get that scroll? I could have sworn he had eaten it. Not only that, it's also completely clean. Danny chuckled at his friend. Let's just say that I did something worse than killing him. And as for the scroll, trade secret. Naruto didn't think his brother would go so far as killing someone. He doesn't look that different from when you both last saw him. All I will say is that the only other thing I took from that clown reject besides this scroll was his dignity. And no, I didn't cut him open. Sasuke didn't want to know. Everyone then returned to normal as Kurama cut off his power from Naruto, Sasuke deactivated his Sharingan, and Danny reigned in his haunting aura. His power. I never seen anything like this before, and his chakra levels, how can it be so high? The last of the Uchiha clan was mesmerized by this alongside the blonde as their skunk-haired friend looked at them, asking if they could head on over to the tower. Now that we have both scrolls, let's head to that tower before anyone ambushes us. I might need time to recover from that stunt there. Space, time shift. Floating around in green abyss, what looked like a wannabe vampire with blue skin, red eyes, and black hair. He was wearing a white suit and cape. Inside of said cape the color was red, black boots, belt, and gloves. In his hand was a specific device he was using to try and track down one Danny Fenton Phantom. His name was none other than Vlad Plasmius, and half-ghost enemy of Daniel. The human side of this ghost was Vladimir Masters, a business tycoon that had managed to make millions by stealing with his powers. But none of this mattered, as he had settled for trying to track down the one thing that he would never be able to obtain. Come out wherever you are, little badger, you cannot hide forever. The evil Helfa spoke with an obvious glee in his voice that showed his fangs. When one combined them with his dark aura, the result was a frightening sight to behold. The device started to beep at an outstanding rate which caused said Halfa to smirk before taking off in the direction it was telling him. On his belt was a modified Plasmius Maximus that would be able to take away Danny's ghost half for about 2 days, or trap him in ghost mode for the same amount of time if he ever wanted to do that. Plasmius smiled still as he flew into a naturally occurring portal right as the device lost said signal. On the other side, he was confronted with a group of people wearing dark robes of some kind with red clouds on them, much to his confusion. "Who the hell are you lot and where the hell am I?" Vlad spoke in a demanding tone before having to suppress a shudder as he felt a massive amount of killing intent directed towards from 4 different directions. Before he could react, the location device in his hands was destroyed and he was forced to turn intangible at the last second to avoid being killed. The fight was on, and with that the evil Halfa was more than ready to attack and defend himself, even if he had to go as far as killing to do so. He let pink orbs of ecto-energy gathered in his hands before speaking. "Well, if it's a fight you want, then it's a fight you will get. But when I win you will do as I say, no questions asked." With that, Vlad easily sent out a blast towards the nearest guy with a smirk on his face at the shocked looks everyone had. If anything, it was a stalemate between the 2 opposing forces as the ninja tried to attack and failed the evil Halfa. As for said evil Halfa, he was having a strong time defeating the ninja as they either dodged his attacks or somehow cancelled them out. Scene shift. Upon arriving at the tower, Team 7 found an entrance with a sign on the wall that Naruto read aloud. "If qualities of heaven are your longing, acquire wisdom to take your mind higher. If earthly qualities are what you lack, train your body and prepare to attack. When heaven and earth are open together, the perilous path will become righteous forever. This, something, is the secret way that guides us from this place today." In the back of Danny's hand he couldn't help but think that clockwork was somehow behind this little test. This what, or is that a secret too? Danny had a deadpan look on his face upon hearing what his brother had said. Sasuke was quiet for a moment before glancing towards his comrade who held the 2 scrolls. Quietly Danny drew them out seemingly from his pockets and held them in one hand before speaking. "Let's just open these scrolls and get it over with. I hate riddles like this." The Halfa opened both at the same time without looking before tossing them just as they began to smoke. "Oh no, this is a summoning jutsu, quick, be ready for anything," Sasuke quickly spoke as they got into a defense position. As for said scrolls, they landed, crisscrossing each other somehow, and let out a massive amount of smoke. In said smoke a figure could be seen appearing and everyone could instantly tell who it was. "What, it's you?" Sasuke spoke with a shocked expression written all over his face as the smoke cleared to show none other than their academy teacher Irika. One thing that caught all of their attention was the bandages wrapped around his chest and cast on his arm. "Hey, long time no see, huh?" Sasuke let out a sigh. He felt like hitting his head on something repeatedly for a moment as their former academy teacher spoke. "Looks like you 3 didn't have much of a struggle at all, in this test at least." Naruto asked the one question that was on all their minds at that moment, which Irika promptly answered. "At the end of the second exam we Chunin are supposed to welcome the test takers back. And well, it was just good luck that I got to be the one giving the important task of being the messenger for you guys." Promptly the Chunin's eyes fell on Danny for a moment and winced as he grabbed a watch from his pocket. "Phew, and you're the 3rd team to have made it to the tower, also breaking the record for the fastest Konoha team to arrive. If it wasn't for the team from Suna and Kyumo arriving first, you would hold the record overall. And now, congratulations, you passed the second exam." Irika smiled and Team 7 gave him shocked looks before going on to a small lecture on the meaning of the sign on the wall, while pointing out the flaws that each individual had. This main consisted of Naruto, who wasn't very good with practical information but could think of a plan on the spot. "One more thing, for the 3rd exam, don't push it too strong, especially you Naruto." Naruto was quiet for a moment as these words set in before finally speaking. "Irika-sensei, when I got this headband, I stopped being a student. So you don't need to worry about me at all, not anymore. I mean, this headband is proof that I'm a full-fledged ninja, right? You gave it to me. I may still be hyper, but I'm not a kid. Like you just said, I got through the second Chunin exam and you watch. I'm gonna pass the third one for sure. Things were quiet for a moment as Iruka looked at Naruto be finally nodding his head and accepting the truth. It was also this time that Danny decided to speak up while ignoring the ever-growing feeling of dread that was gathering in the back of his mind. If anything, Iruka-sensei, there are things that you can't prepare us for in school, and though it was a short amount of time, we have changed. We gained experience outside of Konoha. At this, the skunk-haired boy momentarily paused before shaking off his guilt and dread before speaking again. We are not going to step down no matter the challenges presented to us, so I'll make this blunt. Either help us or get out of our way before you get hurt or worse. Team 7 made their way over to the next room and dealing with the two other teams while waiting for the others to arrive. As they were about to enter the room, though, Danny cast one last glance out the entrance door and towards the sky while frowning. Something is rising out there, and whatever it is, I can't help but think that my past is starting to catch up to me. Enko's new instrument of terror. Alright everyone, meet me outside of the forest of death first thing in the morning. Now hurry on out to prepare. She saw people slowly getting out, but for her it was too slow. Getting a wide grin on, she decided to see what a certain Halfa's suggestion for terror could be. After she had a few words with him during a prank he helped Naruto with. As a trade for not being interrogated too harshly, he would give her a suggestion for something to use in her department. Those of you who are still in the room after 10 seconds have passed, will have to listen to an edited story called The Birds and the Bees as told by yours truly. She gestured to herself and Ibiki, who glared at her for saying such a thing. Gritting his teeth all the while. As if he would ever do that. The next second, though, saw nearly every person scrambling for the door. Some people even leapt out the window at breakneck speeds to avoid it. The team from Kumo actually broke down the wall trying to get out. Some of them were familiar with the talk, but did not want to hear it from an interrogation specialist. Ibiki blinked a few times upon seeing this. Maybe it wasn't a bad idea after all. He looked into the room and only saw one long-haired blonde heiress of the Yamanaka clan. Oh, how ironic. Enko grinned as Ino covered her ears in a panic. Her father told her stories of Marino and Mitarashi. All right, little one. Here's a little story that might cheer you up. What is the answer to the question of where do babies come from? Choji leapt out of the window made by the Kumo team while Shikamaru had gotten an earful after listening to his father berate him for leaving Ino. The two were indeed aware of the talk, but they rather would have wanted to hear it from their parents instead. Of course he did sympathize when he heard from his son what would happen if they didn't leave quickly. Shikaku himself at that age would not be comfortable, especially when taking the exams the next day. The next time Choji and Shikamaru saw her, she had looked green in the face and a pale complexion. Don't talk to me. Please. Thanks to you, I will have nightmares for days. Orochimaru versus Halfa. Orochimaru and Danny stood facing each other. The Sanin was greatly on edge after what he saw the child do just now. You think you can just come in here and give one of my friends a hickey? Maybe you should think about what happens if people can do something else demeaning. Danny disappeared from sight, but Orochimaru could still sense him. He couldn't scan for chakra, but the intent from him was still there. He had never felt such fear before in his entire life. Let's see if you like something like this. Danny's voice echoed around him. Ecto style, Sanin Garoshi, 1,000 years of death. The Sanin went wide-eyed as he suddenly felt violated as something was shoved into the wrong entrance along with a familiar sort of electrical energy. It wasn't chakra but definitely felt it. Orochimaru let out a high-pitched shriek of pain as he was sent flying, his torso slamming into a thick limb while his head was caught through a close-growing tree limb, face showing on the other side. I'll be taking this if you please. Oh, and do remember to keep your Little Peffley, hands to yourself, you clown, reject. He informed him as he phased the scroll through his opponent's torso. Using it again, he got all the body fluids off. Though, Orochimaru's face was not one of relief but constipation. Everything went in reverse as gray lines appeared and rewound all of reality while a sadistic laughter was heard. The laughter belonged to Anko Mitarashi, who ended up cackling at the footage she had received from Danny using the dreaded Hatake move on her former MSTR. Each time she rewound it got better and better, and she continued to laugh more and more. Of course he did ask her if she wanted to show it to the Hokage and Kakashi. Dang, I so owe this kid. He not only managed to sneak up on Orochimaru but he actually got away with it to boot. The second in command of the T&I department smirked as she watched the video a few more times. Unknown to her though was that the snake Sanin was secretly watching this video, while inside growling all the while as he wanted to bang his head on the wall. Unable to comprehend a genin getting one up on him like that. He would have to do something about that tape, but his attention was drawn elsewhere when he heard a familiar voice shouting. Ecto style, thousands years of death. The snake Sanin was sent flying once more as a video camera trained on him by a certain Halfa who was smirking as his shadow clone disappeared. This is probably going to be the top most rated video I have ever made someday, I just know it. Everyone was tense after the 5 days, and in that time 28 genins had passed the test. Now the genin were all ready for the Hokage to give his announcement. Naruto was ready to bounce off the walls with built-up excitement. He couldn't believe he was finally going to be a Chunin. One step closer to obtaining the seat of the Hokage. Sasuke had a small smirk on his face, glad that he was gaining more power. The thought caused his smirk to disappear as he started to think about it. Power isn't everything. Daniel told me it's more of how it is used, almost as if, no, focus on the here and now. His past is his own business, and as long as it does not affect the team then it isn't a problem. Danny on the other hand, though excited about making it to the third exam, couldn't shake the feeling of dread coming towards him. It was as if Murphy's Law has decided to take a full swing at him or something. All thoughts though were suddenly cut off as the Hokage spoke. First, before I tell you what the third exam entails, I want to explain something about the test itself. Listen closely. A few people seemingly straighten up upon hearing this. I'm going to explain to you all the true purpose of these exams. Why do you suppose our country hold these exams in conjunction with our allies? By now, all eyes fell on the Hokage who began speaking. To raise the ability levels of the shinobi and increase relations between allied nations. But it's important that you all understand its true meaning. The exams are, so to speak, they are a representation of battle between nations, whether they be allied, neutral or enemies. Now, if we look at our history, all the countries that we are currently allied, were once neighboring nations that continuously fought with each other for power. In order to avoid destroying each other's military strength meaninglessly, those nations picked champions to do battle on behalf of their countries at a mutually selected location. That was how the Chunin selection exams originally began. Everyone started paying attention now as Danny narrowed his eyes. He felt there was something more to this. Part of the point of these exams involves selecting shinobi that are of becoming Chunin. That's just not the whole story. These exams also allow for a place where shinobi can carry the pride of their nation on their backs. Slow murmurs went through the crowd at this point before quieting down as the Hokage continued to speak. Many leaders and people of prominence from various countries are invited to this exam as guests and also possibly seek shinobi to work for them. This exam could determine the course of your ninja work from here on out, and more importantly those people will watch your battles and take note of the strength of each ninja that each nation is developing. If there's a gap in power between the countries, the strong nations are inundated with job requests for their ninja, and conversely the requests of countries that are deemed as weak decline. Therefore the stronger our nation is, better our position when it comes to negotiating with neighboring countries, so it's important to show how much military strength our village has. Everyone looked around and saw no nobles or leaders in the vicinity. Maybe they would come later. By now Danny let his mind wonder, if it was a nation that is, how strong the ghost zone would really be. After a few seconds he came to the conclusion that it would probably be able to wipe the floor with any of the elemental countries unless they all joined together to stop the ghosts. But then again, how can you stop beings that can walk through walls, disappear, fly, and a whole slew of other abilities such as elemental manipulation, time control, and the ability to warp reality to your liking? He had to snort, not going to happen anytime soon. Like the entire ghost zone could even work together at the moment as it is. They would tear each other apart. The country's strength is the village's strength, the village's strength is the shinobi's strength, and the true strength of the shinobi is only achieved when it's pushed to its limits, such as in a life or death battle. This exam is a chance for each nation to display its strength of its shinobi and hence the strength of the nation as well. It's because this is an exam where your life is on the line, that it has meaning, and it's for this very reason and for the strength of the nation, that your forerunners have fought in this exam. It's truly a dream worth striving for. Yep, Danny could never see the ghost zone, as it were at the moment, actually being able to do this without causing massive chaos amongst itself. If that wasn't enough, then maybe the fact that it would take an hour, maybe half in each other's presence, and the ghosts would start fighting amongst themselves. But you've only remembered half of what I've said. You also mustn't have the wrong idea of the exam's meaning. This is a custom in which balance is preserved by fighting and dying, in the world of the shinobi that is friendship. The third exam is a fight for life with the pride of your village and your own dreams at stake. A sickly-looking man appeared before the third Hokage. Lord Hokage, if I may. Allow me to explain the details of the third exam. Hiruzen paused as he considered the details. Of course, Hay8. The man known as Hay8 glanced at the genin in front of him and spoke. As you are aware, there are a rather large number of genin who made it this far. So rather than start on the third exams, we are going to have a preliminary round to decide who stays and who goes. This got some rather annoyed remarks from those who had barely made it through the forest in time to even get to the tower. You see, we were under the impression that the forest would have been enough to reduce the numbers by more than half. As you can see, it was too easy. Therefore we have decided to have a preliminary round to determine who participates. As you are aware, the exams will have honored guests and nobles who will be watching the exams to determine which village will be sending out the best shinobi for their missions to be completed. As you can guess, we do not want to waste their time with those who are weak. So the preliminary exams will begin immediately. If you feel you are not well enough to continue with this exam, then please drop out now. If one person does drop out, it doesn't mean the entire team follows as well. There were only 2 people who had decided to quit that time. The first was an Iwagakure participant who had broken his leg in the Forest of Death and he felt he couldn't continue in another fight for a while. The other was a Takigakure Kunoichi who was exhausted and on the verge of collapse from lack of sleep. She looked like she wouldn't even make it to the stairs. By now Danny was frowning as he realized that something was wrong, and surely enough it was revealed that there had to be a preliminary before the start of the exam. This came as a shock to everyone as he crossed his arms, keeping a schooled look. Probably from spending too much time at Clockwork's place and around said time MSTR. He was able to school his face to not react to anything, but internally he was freaking out at having to fight others. The main reason was, he knew more lost jutsu than any new ones, and a quarter of them, maybe less, were insanely destructive. He could remember one that accidentally tore a hole right through the Time Master's home, which was made of something that he already forgot the name of. Soon enough the first fight was up and everyone moved up to the walkways to be clear of the fighting. No one dropped out apparently, and out of the corner of his eye Danny caught sight of Kabuto Yakushi smirking for some reason. Danny said nothing, but upon walking past Sasuke whispered in a voice just low enough for the last Uchiha to hear. Best not use anything too revealing, Sasuke, but 500 Ryo says you can't beat this guy without your Sharingan or Jutsu. Without missing a beat Danny continued to walk away while Sasuke glanced at him from the corner of his eye. The black-haired boy only smirked slightly at the challenge presented to him before turning to face his opponent. Up in the stands, Danny made sure to stand away from the two green spandex-clad people and Kabuto. Kakashi though only glanced down at the arena before turning to look at his two students. Naruto had his signature fox-like grin on his face while Danny was only frowning and glancing out of the corner of his eye towards the silver-haired genin. Following the boy's gaze, the jonin saw said genin as well before realizing the reason that the boy was doing so. Seems like someone is overly interested in this fight, best keep an eye on him as well. At the end of the fight, Sasuke managed to win not using his sharingan or any of his jutsus. Danny also discreetly smirked as he handed the last Uchiha's winnings over to him, hoping that he had learned something from this little endeavor. The next of the matches was shown on screen, Zaku Abumi and Shino Aburame. By the looks of it, the sound genin had an accident in the forest of death as his arm was in a sling. Danny glanced at the kid. So this is one of the genin from the Hidden Sound Village. I know that it means that their attacks may be related to sound, but the only person who has any attacks from our team that uses fire is Sasuke. Guess I am going to have to find out. The next fight of the preliminaries will now begin, Zaku Abumi against Shino Aburame. Hajime. Zaku began the match by attacking Shino with an air-decapitating wave. Zenkahoha, the wave of air created a large dust cloud on impacting Shino and his bugs. Alright idiot, was that enough for you? The dust cleared, showing that the attack barely left a dent. Are you sure that was efficient? There was hardly any power in that attack. Danny had to agree. Despite it being a wind-based attack, this one was very weak. Zaku couldn't believe his eyes. What? What is this guy? He's a living freak show. Bugs coming out of his body like a human hive. Hearing something, the sound genin looked around to determine what he was hearing. When he saw what he was hearing, his heart began racing. Shino pressed on. You should know that in order for one person to have a better chance at victory, they need an ace in the hole. If you try and attack me, my friends can deplete you dry. Should you choose to attack them, I will attack you from your blind spot. Let me warn you though, the way they will finish you will not be pretty. Grr. Zaku then smirked, bringing his arm out of his sling. You talk about an ace in the hole. How's this? Zenkahoha. He shouted as he aimed both arms at the bugs and the Aburame. That was when he felt a pain in his arms as he felt the tubes inside his arms break apart from the inside out. GHHH, he shouted as his arms dangled uselessly at his sides. When you have an ace in the hole, you need to think 2 steps ahead and not just one. While I was distracting you with stating your options, I had some parasitic beetles climb into the tubes in your arms and plug them up. The way it looks, your days as a shinobi are over. Winner, Shino Aburame. Following Shino's match came Sabaku no Kankuro vs Masumi Tsurugi. Heiei looked at the two. The next match between Sabaku no Kankuro and Masumi Tsurugi will now begin. Why don't you let me do you a favor and end this fight quickly? Kankuro taunted his opponent. Only if I don't do so beforehand. Tsurugi countered as they ran at each other. Masumi was the first to use his jutsu as he bent his limbs like coils of a snake around his victim, baffling everyone. Heh. I had dislocated all my joints and manipulated my limbs through chakra alone. Danny gaped at this guy. Who was this guy? A freaking plastic man. The more you struggle, the tighter I can become. Monsieur warned him. It sounded like Kankuro's neck broke. Shocking everyone including Danny. But what really broke the suspense was the cracking of the face, revealing it to be a wooden puppet. You idiot. Now it's my turn. The puppet wrapped its wooden limbs around Tsurugi, cutting off his air supply. I surrender. The puppet user let go of the participant and was declared the winner. Next up on the screen came Ni Yujito and Ino Yamanaka. Danny winced at this while some of the Leaf Nin were actually starting to cheer Ino. Mainly her teammate Choji and Guys Lee. His hearing higher than normal, he caught her saying, "Now I can prove myself to Sasuke and even one-up forehead." He shook his head knowing he had to do something. The next words out of his mouth were the last thing anyone had expected. "Hey Yujito." This definitely caught their attention. Even the Hokage and Yujito and her team. "I know this doesn't seem fair coming from me and in asking you this, but would you mind going easy on this girl?" This definitely got Ino enraged at him. Not to mention surprise from the other teams. A fellow Leaf Shinobi doubting even her. Publicly? Not exactly encouraging Daniel. His sensei admonished him. Danny turned to his team. "Kakashi-sensei, from what I know of both opponents and my past few seconds of observation sensei, to call this a one-sided battle before my request was stated would be the most severe understatement of the century." Kakashi glanced at him. "What do you mean by that?" Danny looked at his sensei. Speaking in whisper. "Let's just say, she is like Naruto and Ino is still a fangirl only armed with minimal taijutsu and her mind swap technique." Kakashi's face began paling at the implications his student was giving him. This was not going to be pretty for Ino. Considering her opponent is a serious kunoichi and not a fangirl like Ino herself. Heiei coughed before speaking. "The battle between Ni Yujito and Ino Yamanaka will now begin." Yujito began the battle by tossing 2 shuriken at the green kunoichi. The blonde Yamanaka heiress barely evaded them. Despite having experience at the academy and with her sensei, this opponent of hers was not fooling around. Ino decided to end this quickly. Taking a kunai, she slashed the hair off her head, shocking everyone, even Danny, to figure out what she was going to do with that. She threw the kunai at her opponent hoping to get her distracted. All Yujito had to do was grab the kunai out of the air. But that was all Ino needed time to do. Quickly channeling her chakra into her hair, she was able to halt Yujito's movements. The next thing was just what Danny had predicted. She used her mind transfer on Yujito. For a rookie Yamanaka to use their mind transfer technique against someone like Naruto, Yujito, or Gaara was just asking for trouble. By the time their match was over, Ino was looking traumatized, shaking on the ground. "You need help getting up? Or do you need the medics?" Seeing the girl not answering, Heiei called out for the medics to come and help. The medics gave Ino a sedative to knock her out. Even still they could see phantom twitches. Next match, Omoi vs Daisuke Hagiwara. Omoi stood facing the shinobi from Takigakure. Daisuke was a shinobi who carried himself with little patience. The next round between Omoi and Daisuke will now begin. Daisuke looked at the Kyumo ninja. Omoi was just standing there sucking on his lollipop. Sigh. Why did I have to get one of the impatient idiots as my opponent? By the looks of it, this guy doesn't even know the meaning of the word. Grrr. Daisuke gritted his teeth at the remark. Why you little? Takigakure secret technique, water sword. A blade of flowing water emerged from his pouch as flew towards the Kyumo nin. This guy doesn't even know how to wield a sword, let alone an elemental version of one. Omoi murmured out loud. It almost seems pointless to draw my own blade. Oh well. Turning his sword from the blade to the flat piece, he turned his opponent's blade downward into the ground, therefore destroying the genin's blade and splattering water everywhere, making Daisuke's eyes widen. You don't really do your research, do you? You know where I come from, so you know what we specialize in. Right? Going through some hand signs he yelled out, lightning style, electrical power surge. He shouted as the electricity began to conduct itself towards the Taki nin in electrocuting him, making him fall to the floor in shock. Heiei looked at the kid thinking it could have gone better. Winner, Omoi. The Kyumo shinobi walked out wishing it could have been more exciting. The next batch of combatants were revealed on the screen. Temari vs Tenten. Alright everyone, the next participants for the preliminary exams are Sabaka no Temari vs Tenten. Will the two fighters please come down? The two kunoichi stared each other down, trying to intimidate the other. Despite her face showing calm expressions, inside she was hyped up about being able to fight one of the shinobi from the Sand Village. Those last few matches have gotten my BLD pumping. Now I can see what she is capable of. Even her teammates were cheering her on to a degree. Alright, begin. The two continued staring each other till Tenten leapt back upon seeing her opponent smirk, while at the same time determining what would be the best approach. Did either of you two hear me? I had already started the match. Hey 8 questioned the two. Temari smirked at the girl, believing that she was only going to wait for her to make the first move. She probably had no experience in fighting someone who actually did the same thing. Come on girl, show me what you got. Tenten started off by throwing several shuriken at her opponent. Naruto may have been itching for some action, but he saw the hesitation in Tenten's face when it looked like they had phased right through Temari. He looked at his foster brother, who shook his head in denial as if to say it wasn't the same thing. Looks like the Sand Village wins this match yet again. Naruto glanced towards his classmate Orochimaru. Hey, don't belittle Tenten like that, we have trained with her for at least a year. She never misses her mark in target practice no matter what weapon she uses. Her sensei admonished them, trying to defend his student. This time she did. Her other teammate Niji confirmed it. Next thing people saw was Tenten pulling out a scroll and unsealing it, releasing a multitude of kunai, shuriken, and other weapons she had gotten her hands on. Tenten launched the weapons at Temari, which she surprised many as she had just blown away from her. Every person in the room saw her fan partially opened up. You see this fan? On it I have 3 moons painted, with each one detailing the strength of the gust. The moment it gets to the 3rd, this match should be over. Danny looked at her sensei, Guy, Lee, please tell me that this is not all that Tenten specializes in, right? He asked, his tone displaying hints of desperation, disappointment, and knowing. Guy looked at the genin next to him. What are you talking about? Tenten has more than enough weapons in her arsenal to take down any number of people. Danny shook his head at the display. If this is the way that Tenten likes to attack, and continues, then she will be completely at the mercy of that Sand Kunoichi, whether she wants to believe it or not. That wind jutsu of hers is even stronger than Zaku Obumi's, and as she said before, that was just the first moon. Naruto and Sasuke looked at their comrade. Enai-san, what exactly do you mean by that? Can you explain it to me please? Sigh. Even without my Kekkei Genkai, I can see different ways that this can play out, and the probable method to counter it. You are all aware of what the ability of wind can do to physical objects, right? Yes, it tends to either blow it away or to make it stronger. In my case, my fire jutsu, Sasuke answered. Danny nodded but continued his explanation. It may not look it, but the battle is in the Sand Kunoichi's favor, and what is worse, she doesn't realize it, but Tenten is actually helping her win. This caught a lot of people by surprise. Kakashi was starting to catch on to what his student was saying and wasn't liking where this was going, but decided to let him explain the situation in his own words. You are aware how fast Temari-san moved the first part of the match. Tenten first released a few shuriken which she easily dodged. So fast it almost made her look transparent. Then immediately she began releasing a multitude of sharp weapons to combat her by simply launching them all towards her. Even if she has more weapons than people even think she has, there is a limit to how much she can carry and how much she can release. Judging by her behavior, she is launching everything she has out of sheer desperation, hoping it will hit her target. If Temari keeps dodging and she keeps throwing, she will eventually run out. I'd say she has about 2 more of those scrolls. Once that happens, not only will the strength of the wind be able to carry even Tenten, but also that wind Temari will launch from her fan will carry all the weapons she has ever thrown into the air back at Tenten. Basically, she is just giving Temari ammo. Since she is, as you say, a weapons MSTRS, she will be subjected to the pain of all of her weapons being thrown at her. Think of it as a piece of meat being assaulted by flying shards of broken glass. Shock was plastered over Lee and Guy's faces. This couldn't be happening, right? Sure, they had faith in 1010, but he just listed the easiest way to defeat her without much effort. Just out of curiosity, how would 1010 need to win, if you say that there would be a logical way? Humor me. Niji Hyuga, their teammate, asked them. Danny looked at them. I won't spoil one of my secrets, but I would say this much. In terms of artillery, she doesn't have much left, nor does she have much of what she needs. What I mean is that she lacks any weapons that wouldn't be used in attacking her back if it was glass, like for example, tonfa, or a bow staff. Those could be adequate in constant motion. Bigger blades, not much use either, as even with the tonfa or staff, she would need them more for close combat, as that would be her best option. Guy looked at his student disheartened. He hated it when people criticized his work, but even he couldn't deny that and the logic he stated. 1010 opened up her 2 dragon scrolls, and released everything at once. Once that occurred, Temari released the 3rd moon and lifted 1010 into the air, surrounded by few of her weapons. 1010 fell to the floor, where Temari caused her to hit her back on the fan rather painfully. This shocked even Danny at the girl's brutality. To his defense, Guy also saw how much he was scared. She almost let 1010 fall onto her own weapons, except Lee snatched her out of the air. Humph, nice catch. Temari remarked. Are you out of your mind? You already won the match. Get real, she wasn't even tough to make me sweat. Lee screamed as he began to attack Temari before he was stopped by Guy. Guy reminded him that he will have his chance to prove himself in front of them. Winner, Temari, you didn't have to go that far. TCH. Whatever. The next match came up, which showed Kintsuchi vs Shikamaru Nara. Sigh, I have to fight a girl, troublesome. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Cray22 on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.